everybody, and a very warm welcome to the Creator Series powered by EA Sports. We are back for Season 11. It's been a 3-week break, but the creators and ourselves are raring to go for what is going to be a great season. More to come on what changes are going to be a little bit later on. My name is Jessica Bull. I'm going to be your host, presenter for this evening's race around the Baku City Circuit in Azerbaijan. But good news, everyone, I'm not alone because I'm not going to be able to talk to myself for about 90 minutes or so. Joining me, first of all, we have got the man on the clipbook. It is, of course, Clipbook Carl. Hello, Carl. Season 11 is upon us. We are back. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. It's great to be back. Finally, we've got the band back together. It's an excellent 11th season waiting for us. Of course, we've readjusted the rulebook a little bit, just smashed up the script. We've made something a little bit interesting for this season, but I'm looking forward to it. What better way to start than the Baku Bonanza? It's going to be chaos. I'm all here for it, and I'm sure you all are too.
Yes, it is going to be chaos. Let's just hope we don't have the amount of red flags we had in qualifying earlier on. I'm sure the creators will do a lot better than that, of course. So he will be the one, Carl will be the one clipping all the action tonight and analysing what's happening. But we got to have two commentators, because without commentators, we wouldn't be able to have a race. We, of course, got Tom Squared, Tom Wilkinson and Tom Knight. First of all, TK, welcome along. Realistic cars this year, how's that going to make a difference for this season?
Well, it's a really interesting one. I think it's actually going to switch up quite a lot of who we see at the front. We'll quite often have those that are in, I don't want to say the more powerful cars, but those that are stronger at the front in qualifying. But as the race progresses on, that mental element comes into the race, we'll see the traditional drivers maybe come back a little bit more.
Indeed. And of course, Tom Wilkinson, Alex Gillen won the championship last season. He, of course, is going to be in the worst performing car. He thinks that the Haas may be the slowest, so maybe the Sauber may not be bad for him in terms of him racing tonight about Baku. But it's going to be harder than if you're racing a McLaren. But we'll see how the likes of Alex and GB do in the worst performing car. How do you think they're going to do?
It's going to be interesting because if you remember back to the wildcard we had at Spa, I think it was last season, Gillen was in the Sauber, which we coined as the slowest car, and he did okay. His race pace was pretty decent, qualifying pace was all right. I think I agree with TK where I think especially come the end of the race, you'll see the consistency of the top guys start to come through. The likes of Ben, the likes of Alex Gillen, those more experienced heads and those generally more consistent drivers come through. Qualifying though, I think that will be where we see some shots. Somebody like Scott Taylor in a McLaren, fastest car, I think he's going to be consistently starting at worst inside the top 5. You can just get a decent lap time on the board.
Yeah, I've seen him practice around Baku last night, of course. He seems to be doing all right as well. But of course, if you do well in the first race, then you're more than likely going to get a slow car for the next race. So it's kind of like a catch-22, as it were. So how it's all going to work for the season, each creator, will not have the same car for the entire season. No constructors for the remainder of the season. Drivers for this round will be based on an average point per finish basis from Season X. So if you've done well last season, then they'll be put in one of the slower cars. If you've done rubbish, you'll be put in the faster cars. But if they haven't raced last season, that it will be based on previous season's pace, and if they haven't raced at all, it's kind of like a little bit of a guesstimate on what they've done in like previous leagues and stuff like that. So some drivers we might have got right, some drivers we might have got wrong, but the majority of our drivers' car, we based it on where they finished last season. We'll go through that a little bit in just a second, but it seems to me that people may want different cars each round because Baku is a track where they're going to need the straight line speed.
Of course, yeah, straight line speed is king, but I think the thing with a track like Baku, which you can't possibly predict for, is how many stoppages there are going to be, how many safety cars we're going to have, and what other surprises will be sprung. That's the thing. So, as much as they'll be happy with the cars, some of them, and some of them probably a bit less happy, we'll go through the lineup in a little bit, just so you get an idea of what so you know what you're picking up, what we're putting down, basically. But It's gonna be an interesting one, I think. We'll see what safety cars have to do with it. Of course, there's been a bit of a change in that rule there as well, but who knows? I'm just here for the ride.
Let's go through actually, Carl, the changes for this season as well as the realistic car performance, because there's quite a few changes of the rules. So speaking of safety cars, it leads us to a good segue. We've noticed, even as commentators and presenters, safety cars don't come out that often on this game. So we changed it to increase safety cars. And a little bit of a fun fact for you, a little bit of a surprise from last season. We raced at Las Vegas. We accidentally had increased safety cars and we only had 2 of them. So there we go. So hopefully we'll still have safety cars anyway, but it just makes things a little bit more spicier out there on the track. And intentional on-track DNS will now only be allowed up to 10 laps to go instead of 15, which gives more drivers a chance, if they had a rubbish race and if they want to spice up for the other drivers, to intentionally DNF. But at least we still have 10 laps of intentional safety cars if necessary.
Of course, absolutely. And I was going to try and take you through all of your driver lineups, but ladies and gentlemen, you will see that in just a second. We are loading into qualifying as we speak. And I think I go back to what Tom said in terms of qualifying will be a very interesting one. We could see a shock pole sitter today, of course, with the advantage of having one of the quicker cars, or maybe, even more impressively, someone in that slower machinery will rise up the ranks. You never know. But qualifying first on the agenda, and it might just be so incredibly important.
Yeah, I think qualifying is going to be even more important this season. Maybe not around this track, but in other tracks it might be. We'll quickly go through the lineups before we go into qualifying, but I'm not going to be the one that does that. We're going to be handing you now to our commentators. Of course, it's Tom Squared, Tom Wilkinson and Tom Knight. TK, over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Jess, and welcome to a very sunny Baku street circuit here in Azerbaijan. And on your screens are the 20 driver lineups for this afternoon's round of racing. And I'm sure a few you may recognise from here, there, and a little bit of everywhere. As Jess said, my name's Tom Knight, alongside me, Tom Wilkinson, to take you through all the qualifying and the race action. And we have, Tom, already got a couple of drivers out on laps, Safso being the first of those to do so.
Typically, we do see Safso jumping out of the pits first, getting on those green-striped intermediate tyres. Intermediate pole position is still a thing. You'll get that extra bonus point if you're fastest on the inters within the first 6 minutes of qualifying starting. And that's going to be an interesting one as well because, like we'll see with the main grid, this should be shuffled around a little bit more. There's usually a little bit more of a disparity as well. The faster guys usually just have that little bit more of an advantage on the intermediates just because there is lower grip. But this could spice things up as well. We could see points swung this way and everywhere. And I think what is good about this series, or this season, I should say, with the realistic performance, things are going to fluctuate so much, whether that's performances from all the drivers, who's going to be at the top, who's going to be struggling. It's going to be very, very fluid, very dynamic until probably right until the end of the season.
Absolutely, and I think it could go any which way in terms of drivers because they've all got a chance to try and push their way forward. If they have that bad result that we could inevitably see over the course of the season, they then essentially will hop into a better performing car, have a chance at redemption. Of course, it is over that average. Obviously, one poor performance isn't going to drastically put you in a McLaren to then blast your way forward for the final round of the season. It is all done on averages, and hopefully, as long as we do our maths right, it should all balance out rather nice and well. 11 cars opting for the intermediate tyres, a few more opting just in the middle after I've counted, and it will be Safso that kicks us off for our intermediate pole laps. We've got just over 3.5 minutes left on that intermediate pole lap. Remember, the lap must be completed by the minute we hit 12 on the top left of your screen. So drivers are very limited here, especially in Baku, because they've got to get it right first time.
Effectively, one-shot qualifying for everybody, and they're going to have to look after these rear tyres in particular. This is a rear-limited circuit. In the race, you should see drivers really trying to manage the rear tyres in particular, just to try and get the best traction they possibly can, keep those rear tyres alive. And in qualifying, on the intermediate tyres, they're going to start to balloon in temperature ever so slightly. So you've got to be careful with them on the exit. If you do keep them in check, once you get through the middle and into the final sector, blasting through the kinks up to the line, you're going to stand yourself in very, very good stead.
You certainly are indeed. Safso just navigating his way through, avoiding the walls, which is very crucial here in Baku. I'm sure someone might have been able to tell the drivers early if you watched any real-life qualifying. If you haven't, no more spoilers from this point onwards. We'll let you enjoy what we all got to saw about 4 or 5 hours ago or so. Safso just navigating across that little crest on turn 7 before making his way towards the castle section. 70 metres across, the tightest point in Formula 1. He navigates that rather well. 31 degrees is the track temperature at the moment. And as you said earlier, Tom, those tyres are going to be screaming as you're putting more and more pressure, more and more lateral load through them, especially through this third sector, which is such a high-speed sector.
100%. You can see how tense TV was through the castle section in particular. So really just trying to baby these tyres, keep them in the best condition you possibly can. Slightly wide of the apex as we now come through. Foot will be flat to the floor until you complete the lap and head down into turn number 1. This is a pretty decent track for Sasso as well. Never finished outside of the top 10 on 5 appearances here at Azerbaijan. Of course, that is in what I think we can probably say is version 1 of the Creator Series on equal performance. Now with the realistic cars, can he keep what is a very strong run going as he blasts towards the line or cut the beam very shortly? And the benchmark on the green struck tyres, 44.1, should be into the 43s, you would imagine.
Yeah, that's an excellent lap from Sasso. Certainly kicking off the Intermediates Challenge here in Season 11 with style. A couple of drivers coming across the team radio. Karim saying that the plan on paper was not to bin it into a wall. I guess we'll see how long that lasts. And Sasso saying a very poor last corner. Very poor indeed. And we saw that as Lottie Nova eclipses him by the barest of margins. 3.6 hundredths of a second between them. GB can't alight the streets this time around. Of course, remember, back a couple of races, 2 previous when we were at Azerbaijan, GB actually got his first win here in the Creator Series. So it was a memorable track for him, I'm sure, to come back and race out.
From 15th on the grid, no less. And his teammate that day, that guy Vince, slotting into P4, make that 5, make that 6 as the times started to come in thick and fast. Adam Sands are going to be interesting to see what setup he is running as Matt 2-on-2 is 4.5 seconds quicker on the red stripe soft compound tyres in the Scarlet Ferrari car. That Aston Martin, we've determined the slowest car on the straight. There's quite a hefty straight on the run out of turn 16 into turn number 1. So he's going to be having to make that car as slippery as possible. Ricciardo 3 in the Mercedes up to the top with a 39.7. Karim has thrown it in the wall in the middle sector. That's going to be 2 qualifying sessions in a row here at Azerbaijan that he's not going to get a time on the board.
He's lost it at Castle, according to the track map at the bottom right hand of your screens. Well, that's going to be a poor end to his qualifying. I'm sure Carl on the corner will be able to give us all the inside scoop that we need to know here. But the time is ticking down. 23 seconds left on the Intermediates pole position. And currently, it's Alex Gillen that sets the fastest time on the green striped tyres. At the moment, after you were saying that the Sauber definitely isn't anywhere near quick, we've had another car manage to find the wall somewhere, trying to keep an eye on where that Haas is. That looks like that might have been in the pits, and that's Kai with this with qualifying ban. My apologies.
I am stupid. We've heard that one before here at Azerbaijan. Scott Taylor, watch out for Scott Taylor. We said it. 43.6, a 10th down on Gillen. But as the clock ticks below 12 minutes, our reigning champion is the championship leader. He has 1 point to everybody else's 0. And Alex Gillen starting as he means to go on. He may be in the slowest car, but at the moment he does sit atop the intermediate times.
Certainly does indeed. Starting as he means to go on, I think could be the championship play that he wants to do to try and go for the 3-time here in Season 11. Just to keep you updated, we've had a couple of people in the chat asking, where is Fabio, where's Infratic? Fabio serving a race ban for the opening round of Season 11. He will be back for round 2, although kicking and screaming, I'm sure, not sat in his usual Scarlet Red Ferrari, but alas, sticking with the reserve of the realistic performance that we've adopted here for Season 11.
100%. It should be fairly competitive, you'd imagine. Shows some real good turns of speed in Season X. So if he's in a decent car, watch out for Fabio as well. It hasn't been the cleanest lap either, it has to be said. From Scotty Designs, by the way. Stepping into Infratic's favoured Ferrari cars will blast now through the kinks of 17, 18 and 19. Looks a little bit tentative in the middle sector. Wobbly through turn 16 as well. We saw Sasso struggling for grip on the intermediate tyres as well. Going to get a lovely suck here though on the run up to the line. I'm not sure who it is. I think it's one of the Saubers. I think it's Alex Gillen. Yeah, GB in the pit. So this should be a bit of a better final set for Scotty Designs. Only a 40 flat though, and second slowest of the drivers on the soft compound tyres.
Well, by the barest of margins, about 2/10 off what his teammate Matt 2-on-2 did at the first time of asking on the softer compounded tyres. So the 2 Ferraris at the moment looking very equally balanced between the 2 of them. This is so far stepping into where we roughly expected a few creators to be sat in these realistic performance cars. We're waiting for the McLarens, quite notably, to come and do their first runs on the soft tyres. Of course, Super Noodle Bagel, Scott Taylor, both have done runs on the intermediate so far, yet to put on the full soft tyres. Keeping an eye on Concept 7 as he runs up towards the line. And just while he comes across the line, goes 6th fastest. I've got a word in my ear that Clipbook Carl's ready for us.
You caught me by surprise, my friend, but guess what? Luckily I had it. Kareem, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, looking probably the best he's ever looked, I'll be honest with you. But regardless of that, this is how we ended up bowing out of this Baku qualifying session. Unbelievable stuff already. The man that's usually so strong with the intermediate tyres usually is right at the forefront of the Interspol conversation, but it's the Castle section that rears its very ugly head indeed. Through the left-hander we go, and I'm just going to slow this down quickly. Skypad style, but through he just turns in. The car won't grip up, it's too much speed carried in, and eventually concedes defeat and turns into the wall. But that is how our Season 9 champion has already come a cropper at the Castle section. Heavy the head that wears the crown, and Kareem will not mount the throne of Interspol today.
Well, that's actually really interesting. I was watching that on board as Carl was taking us through it. You saw the moment that car started to slide. He's tried to correct almost into the barrier to avoid that wheel coming off, hit it somewhat head on. Unfortunately, he hasn't been able to correct the car enough to be able to almost trigger that safety reaction of just removing the front wing. But it takes a bit of an interesting strategic element from that crash. He almost managed to pull it off.
100%. Tried to bail out of it as best he could. Like I said, hit the barrier square on, so he only took off the front wing rather than one of the wheels. In fact, he wasn't very successful at doing so, though. And we'll join Formula Kai on the back row of the grid. Formula Kai, we're formerly known as Formula Cream, starting 19th and 20th. Not the best of starts. And like we said when it happened, this is going to be the second time in a row that Formula Cream, or Cream 7T, has failed to get a lap on the board in Azerbaijan qualifying.
I must say, there's been some rumours and some concerns around the Saubers for this weekend. There was initial talk that they were running slightly overweight until we did get a medical exemption on the basis that GB has regrown some of its hair on his head, so that did lead to being slightly over the maximum weight limit. I'm sure the criteria admins have allowed it on this occasion for him to run, and he runs down towards the line to finish off his outlap to go for what will be his first run on the full slick tyres.
There is a trade-off as well, because with the hair growing back, it makes you slightly less efficient aerodynamically, where you have just that lovely slick bald head that you used to have.
Absolutely. Although I've heard the local sales of polish have gone down recently. No, unsure as to why. There's no correlation between the two events, but so far keeping it clean on the opening couple of corners. You can see he's completely focused on the road in front of him. Slight glances up to keep an eye on his chat, which is obviously so important when you're streaming and trying to make content from these races, but both eyes locked forward like a predator.
100%, really hustling that Sauber, but a bit of a wobble there as he reached the apex. Fastest first set at the moment is a 35.1. GB a couple of tenths down on that. It was set by Ricky 03, matched by Chappers as well, who currently holds the provisional pole time. Safso, there's the Season 1 champ, up into P2, 39.6, got a quarter of a second though, down on Chappers. He's another one we need to watch out for him. In that Red Bull Racing car, same situation to Scott Taylor. They should be consistently towards the front as GB really going hard through the Castle section. Bit of a snag at the rear, but just about catches it. Now powering down as we approach the final sector.
Timo Marduk comes across the team radio, hoping for no dirty air, or at least not much, as he makes his way through what will be his opening lap in the Haas car. Lolly Nova goes fastest in a Williams. That's an incredible lap set by the Italian at the first time of asking. We're being told Timo Marduk is stuck behind Ricky as he makes his way down towards the line. You can see the Mercedes coming up towards the timing beam, crosses it. Ricky goes second, immediately displaced by Timo Marduk, who's managed to go second fastest in a Haas overall. And this is really mixing the grid up. Chappers up in fourth as well. Taco, Vincent, Safso, the Alpines looking rather balanced. Of course, Matt 2 and 2, Tukey, Scotty Designs all in the mixer. GB going sixth fastest on a Sauber. I think he'll certainly be happy about that.
Maybe not if he looks at some of his sector times. Lost half a second to Lolanoba in the final set. So that maybe just tells us a little bit about the wing levels that certain drivers are running. Of course, the performance of the cars in a straight line as well. It'll be fascinating to see what the likes of Concept 7 and Adam Sanderson's final sector times look like in an Aston Martin. That can be a bit of a boat in a straight line. And here's the twin kick Sauber of Alex Gillen, reigning champion, already leading the championship with that pole he picked up for intermediate poles. He blasts towards the line, foot flat to the floor, dearest flat wide open. Can he displaces Lolanoba and his old sparring partner Timo Marduk at the top of the timing charts. He goes P3, slots in just behind them, 39.1. I think Alex will be pretty satisfied with that, as will Chappers, who for the second time this session is fastest overall.
Here we go then, qualifying is well and truly underway. Just over 5 minutes left for our drivers to get their final runs and their final laps in. And as it stands, Red Bull dominance is going to be the way forward. Keep an eye on Razin Chai in the V-Carb here this afternoon. His teammate Formula Karim already crashing out at Castle Section. Can he try and make it a V-Carb sandwich on this grid? No. Only comes across 12th fastest with a 40.005. Super Noodle Bagel and Scott Taylor, who has invalidated his run, will make their way down towards the line as well. Unfortunate for Scott there. He'll be looking for better results than he'd liked at the end of last season, because obviously, you know, he hasn't had the best results in the Creator Series. I think that was purely down to potentially a little bit of potentially in the car as well, but now realistic performance should be able to drag him forward somewhat.
100%. We're hearing as well that Razin did that lap one-handed, which is a very interesting strategy from himself there. He's also got a very strong record around this circuit as well, with 2 victories and 2 pole positions. So if he can extract the most out of that V-Carb and using both of his hands, that would be ideal for himself. Then he's going to find himself in a very nice place on the grid. His Scotty Designs very competitive in the first sector, so middle sector. His second attempt on the soft tyres goes from 14th up to 7th, 6/10 down on Chappers with just under 4 minutes to go.
This is a really close grid at the moment. If you look top 10, all within a second of each other at the moment, which is so close in and amongst everybody. We did have an Aston Martin come across the line. That, I think, is going to be the likes of Adam Sanderson, who just jumped up to P8. Keep an eye on Razin Chai, who I think will be heading back into his pit box. I'm sure we can have a look at that one-handed lap that he has accomplished, because that is some achievement, I think.
Yeah, I'm sure Carl will sink his teeth into that one, but he needs to try and find a bit more performance, Razin. Down in P14 on a 40 flat, definitely not going to be good enough. He wants to find himself right sharper, and he's got third slowest, of the representative times. James Early hasn't got a representative time on the board, 42.4. Scott Taylor as well, we saw him invalidate as well, 43.6. Adam Sanderson, that's a decent effort though, you have to say. 39.6, nestled just inside the top 10, a member of actually the 36 and 39.6 club, I should say, with Dak Govitz, GB and Safso.
Yeah, I think a lot of our drivers at the moment will be comparing themselves to their teammate, because at the end of the day, you don't necessarily have drivers around you that you typically would be looking out for. It's all a little bit shuffled around, but you know for certain that your teammate is going to be roughly similar pace week in, week out. And of course, your rival, so to speak, is going to be changing cars every week as well. So you'll have a new teammate in as Matt 212 retires from the session. That looks like he's gone off at turn 1.
Wow, so I don't know what that would be, whether he's clipped the inside barrier or just messed it up and tried to. We saw Kareem do earlier on, realised he was heading face first for the barrier, tried to get out of it, but still slamming that front wheel off the car. We will wait and see. 2 minutes to go, just over. Chappers, Lolland Ober and Tim McMahon at the top 3 as it stands, with the reigning champion nestled in just behind him, really attacking through the castle section concept there. On his Creator Series debut, no less, so trying to put a decent mark down. Hasn't got a good time on the board at the moment though, 40.5, nearly a second down his teammate.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to keep an eye on everybody around you watching with concept in towards the illustrious turn 15. It's so easy to make it wrong there, or get it wrong, should I say, in towards 16 as well. And it's pretty much flat out now through 17, 18, 19 and 20 towards the line. You've just got to pick your line, stick with it. Adam Sanderson out as well. What has happened to the Aston Martin? Because it looks like that car's in the pit lane.
Yeah, I think he may have just sacked it off, realising he wasn't going to go again. He did start another lap time, so maybe just a mistake there from Adam, or he couldn't extract any more performance out of the tyres. Here comes his teammate, 16th at the moment. Does he improve? Yes, but only finds one spot to P15. James Early improved by a little bit as well as he crosses the line, 41.7. Probably going to find himself starting 17th, most likely 18th, with Scott Taylor yet to set a decent time as well.
DB came across the team radio saying that he has got to give it his all on this final ride. If I crash, I crash, were the words that he said. Scotty Designs, by the way, is out of the session. I believe that's in the pit for yellow flag. I think he caused by one of Mercedes. I'm assuming that is to be Ricky 03, who'd gone off at the bottom corner. Oh, or should I say turn number 2. You can see the yellow flags, the track map on the right-hand side. Safso, Season 1 champion, infamously runs towards the line, goes 4th fastest. So we'll start from the second row at the moment. Scott Taylor making advancements from 18th place at the moment. He makes his way in towards this tricky middle sector through 5 and 6. And that's Scott Taylor we've got on our screens now. Looks like he's inviting video technology from the 1990s, a 4x3 camera angle. But in towards Castle Section he will go. Got to get it right again. Last gasp hurrah. He's got, it's very close to the exit wall there. Manages to keep it narrow and tidy through 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12. It's a fast-flowing section of corners that you've got to get right. More concentration on this man's face at the moment. Run down towards 15. So easy to get it wrong here. Gets the car turned in nice and neatly. Little bit of a kick out there. It's absolutely fantastic. Scott Taylor knows how to drive realistic performance cars. He does this week in, week out. Absolutely bread and butter stuff for him. Thank you, Carl, for the information. Purple Sector 2 for Scott Taylor as well. He is absolutely flying here in the McLaren. The timer has elapsed. There will be no more laps begun. Can Scott Taylor, at the final time of asking, run up towards the line to claim pole position? There was a little bit of a tap on the wall on the right. Oh, it's fourth fastest for Scott Taylor. He'll start from the second row.
It's those 2 tenths that he lost in the final sector. He was purple sector 1 and sector 2. Best start of second in the Creator Series before. Currently P4, you'd imagine. He might get bumped down ever so slightly. No, but doesn't improve. Stay second fastest. Could be in a spot of bother there. Ricky 03, 7th fastest. Second Mercedes up to the line, looking strong. Ricky 03 improves. 39 flat, slots in just behind the McLaren.
Got to keep an eye on everybody else running towards the line. GB68, of course, got his first win here from 15th place. He said he's going to give it his all on this final run. He'll come up towards that timing beam. Where can he go from 12th place? It's third on the grid. He'll start alongside Tim and Marduk at the moment. Chappers not improving through the second sector. He's got a bit of a toe, though, from the McLaren of Super Noodle Bagel, who's just in front of him. Bagel jumps up to 15th place. Chappers does not improve, but remains in pole position. Gillen will not look to improve on an invalidated run, and this will be, unless Razin Chai can displace him, Chappers, for the first time in season 11, is on pole position.
What a lap. Shout out the 2 Williams as well. Late lap from the season 4 champion, I should say, Meraki, to slot in just behind his teammate by a millisecond. But look how close it is. The top 10 down to Alex Gillen, the reigning champion, less than 3 tenths per second. The top 4 covered by a third of a tenth. That is what we're in for this season with this realistic performance. But it is Chappers. We said watch out for him. He is delivered by 12 milliseconds ahead of Lolly and Meraki. GB and Ben, your top 5.
And then we go Scott Taylor, Tukey, Ricky 03, Safso, Alex Gillen, all within the top 10. Vince in the Alpine starts 11th with Razin Chai in 12th. Scotty Designs, by the way, 13th with Sanderson. Matt 212, Super Noodle Bagel, Concept 7, James Early, starting as your classified or qualified drivers. Kai starts 19th with Karim in 20th. And we're going to throw it back over to Jess.
Thank you very much. And it has been quite an intense qualifying and quite a lot of things have happened. Carl obviously has been keeping an eye on it throughout. It was amazing to see Chappers, his full-time debut, get pole.
Oh, absolutely excellent. And we knew we were going to see surprises sprung, but using that Red Bull to great effect, that's the domino effect. That's the way the pendulum can swing in your favour if you have that faster car on your side. And Chappers takes pole position, the first pole position of season 11. However, there are a couple more bits and pieces that I just wanted to pay attention to. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, we spoke whisperings of Razin driving one-handed. You're thinking probably there's no way he drove one-handed. Yeah, he did drive one-handed. Here he is, looking at Razin. Look at the bottom right of your screen. And as you can see, he's driving left-handed. Into the castle section, you see for yourself the evidence in the camera above as well. Still driving one-handed at this point. Still having that incremental, in fact, an incredible improvement on this particular lap. His first one after the Interspole, and he decided, you know what? I'll limit myself. Give myself a little bit more of a challenge. But more crucially, this is how Alex Gillen's qualifying unravelled, down to P10 for our Season 10 champion. So a little bit of poetry in motion, I suppose, but towards turn 1 he goes, braking as late as he dares, turning in as early as he dares, he clips the wall on the inside, and Razin decides to switch him back because Alex's lap is, well, he's completely ruined it at this point, but it sort of evolves from there. Razin has a lap to do, Alex Gillen in the slipstream decides just to ruffle the feathers of Razin Chai just a little bit, sends it down the inside, of course, completely throws Razin's last lap into the bin. But that was the end of that. In the context of Alex's session, he's smiling, you know what, he's having a good time, fair play to him. But in that kick Sauber down in P10, it was work enough in qualifying, it is even more work to do come race day.
Thank you for that. And it just shows that realistic cars is definitely working, because you see drivers that you would expect to be lower down the grid on equal performance go up there near the top. But you're still seeing the quicker drivers, even on slower cars, still get up there in the top 10 as well. So it's harder each week to know who's going to do well. We could be surprising to see what's going to happen. But I'm keeping my eye car on Lonnie Noba. Of course, Lonnie Noba, when we last did the realistic performance situation around Belgium in Season X, he was the one that won the race, and he was up there near the top today in, I believe, a V carb. So Lonnie Noba, as well as Shaps, of course, and Scott potentially, and also all the other drivers, he could be the one to watch out for today, based on what we saw last season in the same kind of format.
Of course, absolutely. The Italian driver, driving for the Italian-based team in Faenza, it is, again, it's all poetic. It might well work out for him today. Baku, of course, a wild card of its own in many ways, in terms of the barriers. It's all very claustrophobic. You never know quite what's going to happen. But we saw this last time in Belgium as well. Gwatz used the Mercedes to great effect to get pole position for the main race. But then it just didn't sort of work out from there, and everybody else, with that consistency, that cutthroat consistency for that matter, managed to make it work. So we'll see the likes of Lonnie Noba, Tiamat Marduk and co. properly sink their teeth into it. It's going to be a sensational slobber knocker. Roll on Season 11.
It is going to be amazing. We can't keep you waiting any longer. The formation lap has started, so let's kickstart round 1 of Season 11, the first round in realistic performance cars. We'll hand you over to our commentators, Tom Knight and Tom Wilkinson. Over to you, TK.
Well, welcome once again to a very sunny Azerbaijan. Track temperature at just a nice and warm 35 degrees, air temperature roughly about 24 degrees. 51 laps will be the race distance for our drivers here this afternoon. And they're well getting away and under-prepped. A whole rainbow of tyres in effect here this afternoon. Hards, mediums and softs in use by a variety of drivers. Now, how often have we seen that, Tom?
Not very frequently. Rainbow tyre challenge, maybe, when those wild cards are thrown in. We see a real mix of all of them. I think it's almost equal. There's 6 soft compounds I can see. I think it's 6, 7 potentially. That doesn't add up to 20. Good maths there, Tom. Anyway, we'll move away from it. What we need to remember from last season, though, this is really interesting. The drivers that started on the hard compound tyres were thinking Alex Gillen, thinking Tom 97, who was there for that race as well. They fell back quite quickly. I think Gillen started on the front row. 3 or 4 laps in, he was down to P8 or 9. So those hard tyres can be quite difficult to get the energy into them, to get the temperature you need to really push on them and lean on them and build your confidence in the car. So that's going to be interesting, especially when we've got more drivers starting on the softs. Tiamat Marduk on the softs, he's going to be racy on this opening lap. The same with GB68. Remember, GB going for that first Creator Series Championship, was runner-up last season. Can he go one better? He's got a good start from P4. Going to have to challenge this man, Meraki, who starts third, with the secondary Williams just in front as well.
He absolutely will. Just keeping you eased to the ground is Carl. I think Razin took out Killen on the formation lap. A little bit of revenge there between the two after those final runs in qualifying. Let's not forget as well here, Tom, though, we have got a wild card in play for this afternoon. It's Styrophobia, the return of everybody's favourite wild card. Bonus points are awarded for any drivers that manage to hit any of the brake marker boards or any of the marker boards around the circuit. These are not limited to the brake markers, obviously DRS and pit marker boards as well that are also in play as well. And of course, most of them being up in the air, I'd be intrigued to see if anyone is able to use their car as a bit of a springboard to get up to them. But nonetheless, points will be awarded for hitting those markers. Drivers are on the grid, though. We're about to go racing. 51 laps here in Azerbaijan. And I'm sure everybody is prepped and ready. 20 cars on the grid here at the Baku Street Circuit, and we await the lights. 5 lights lit here in Baku. And the lights go out, and we go racing. Chappers from pole. Lonnie Noba starts second. He'll have the inside line. GB thinks about it in towards the first corner. They go 2 abreast in towards the opening sector. Who's going to come out on top? It's Lonnie Noba that finds his way through. Chappers hasn't had the best of race starts. GB wants to try and have a sniff as well. Gets the position done. The better tyres, the softer tyres coming to his aid, and he now runs down towards turns 3, 4 and 5. The Haas car of Tiamat Marduk looking for a move on a pole sitter of Chappers. He goes alongside into the braking zone. He couldn't get it on the first time of asking. The second time he can. It's Tiamat Marduk up to third. Meraki now looks for a very similar move. Chappers in the middle of the road, and that's excellent defending from the man that started from the front. He is not going to let the Williams past easy.
Seeing a lot of damage flying up, flutters of damage coming out of turn 1. Cream 17, by the way, from last, gone off the grid like an absolute rocket ship, found himself in P15, coming into turn 1, blasted through the middle of about 4 cars, now having to do the work over on Sapso in the battle for P13 and 14. Not sure who's got damage in the midfield. We'll wait and see how things pan out. Razin Chai is 1.7 seconds off the back of Meraki, but he's muscled his way past Alex Gillen, renewing the spoils that we saw from qualifying. Cream 17 as well, up 7 places in this first half of lap.
He absolutely is really starting to make an impression here. Softer tyres booted on to that V-Carb, so obviously we'll have the natural bit of advantage that the softer tyres bring. Lolly Nova, though, has to try and break the toe. Yellow flag to the back immediately. Safto gets caught out as they head in towards turn 16. Doesn't look like there's any major damage on that Alpine, so he will be able to keep running. That's little knocks to the confidence. Of course, Safso starting all the way up in P9. Skyscrapers for the Alpine at one moment. Unfortunately, that's come all tumbling down.
Bad idea at all, but it has been good for those 2 soft runners. 3 Grand Prix winners sat inside the top 3 with 2 champions inside the top 5, and GB sternly examining the rear geometry of that Williams car. We'll get a taster to see what the straight line speed is like. The DRS flap is open. You would imagine GB is going to absolutely sail past Lolly Nova and take the lead after starting from P4 at the venue where he won his first Creator Series race a few seasons ago, and now finds himself in a familiar spot at the front of the field.
Yeah, he's going to be more and more comfortable here. Of course, ran rather well last time out when we saw Razin get that victory. Tom giving him the drag towards the line to claim it over a few of the other drivers that were in and amongst the grid. But there was a moment there that we were potentially going to see GB going back to back. But a second win here will certainly go in his favour to kick off what was an almighty championship campaign last time out in Season 10. Couldn't quite get it across the line. Gillen, at the end of the day, had the better season, was more consistent, and alas, reaped the rewards from winning the championship. And of course, he had to do it in style out at Las Vegas. Rolled the dice, and it went his way. Riding on board with Ricky 03, chasing down our stead champion from Season 10, in towards the infamous turn 15, where it is so easy to get it wrong. Tyre strategies or possible race strategies up on your screens at the bottom. Medium, medium, hard, and a few drivers, of course, starting on the softer tyres, so we may even see a 2 or 3 stop strategy coming into effect here.
The safety cars will most certainly play their part as well. We're starting to see things fan out ever so slightly. GB was trying to just stretch his legs a little bit on that first lap once he got past Lolanova. Gap coming down as the DRS flap's open. Here comes Ricky 03 though, the Silver Arrow charging past the Sauber of Alex Gillen, this reigning champion. Bumped back down a further spot into position number 8. They'll be hoping he can be dragged up towards that leading group. The leading couple of groups that have pulled away, darting down the inside. Cream 17, shoulder barges Tukey off the road. I think he might be about to let that place go. Yes, he is, but watch out for Adam Sanderson making the most of that. He says, I'll have a piece of the action. I'll pick up a free spot. Gets past the pair of them. Sanderson opportunistic as ever. He has P11 in his grasp, but look at this, Formula Kai as well. Another driver that's very opportunistic with 4 drivers wide. Throw a blanket over them. They're so closely contested, and Cream, that little bit of a blunder, sees him go from 11th back down into P15. Make it 14th because I think Tukey has gone straight on at turn 3.
Yellow flags out once again, manages to rejoin safely, does the Red Bull. Of course, his teammate Chap is still sat in P4. Considerable damage there to the Red Bull of Tukey. Front, left and right end plates missing. I believe for the driver down in P20, will be hoping for an early safety car to see if he can be brought back into this race by some means other than his own driving. But GB now leads nearly over a second back to Lolly Nova. This is what he'll be hoping for, that Tiamat Marduk and Lolly Nova continue to fight before we get to that DRS detection zone, just before or just as we make our way through turn 20 on the run down towards the start finish line. And it's so close to eclipsing that 1 second marker.
I feel for Ben, he's got to be efficient here. He's got to see where Lolly Nova is struggling and then pounce when he seizes that opportunity and try and keep GB within arm's reach. On the previous lap, GB and Tim Marduk were separated by just 1 millisecond lap time-wise. 43.616 for GB, 43.615 for Ben just behind. So they're obviously very evenly matched pace-wise. Here comes Alex Gillen trying to get 7th place back off the hands of Ricky 03. Deja vu from a lap ago, although this time it's the Sauber blasting past the Mercedes. And Gillen is back up into P7. They've lost a couple of tenths on this lap to that little trio in front of Chappers, Meraki and Razin Chai, now extended just over 2 seconds between 6th and 7th place. There is a bit of a train behind as well. Ricky 03, Dak Govitz and Scott Taylor in there, with Provide McLaren hasn't had a brilliant start. Here comes the Season 4 champion, and the pole sitter is now down to P5.
That's definitely not Meraki up on our screens. Now it is Meraki up on our screens. Dak Govitz making a brief appearance in place of the driver in the Williams. And speaking of which, he's still down in 10th place just behind Scott Taylor. But Meraki in a bit of no man's land here. Dispatches Chappers as we have yellow flags again. Karim 7T seems to have made a mistake here. Heading off, I believe, at turn 3 once again. Manages to get the car going. Any damage report? Yes. Front right end plate missing for the V-Car, down in 19th. One place higher than he started, so technically improving. But of course, he will not be happy with how this has gone down.
Yeah, the recently deposed champion, of course, won in Season 9, had to hand his crown over to Alex Gillen in Season X. This has not been a good start, considering he did briefly get up into P11 after 3 laps. To be back down in P19, had to concede slightly too few many places when he tried to let Tukey back through. That obviously didn't work out as Tukey made the mistake, and threw all of that in the nearest bin he could find, and Kareem making that mistake. I'm not sure whether there was contact with somebody else or whether it was just a mistake on his own. We'll probably have a look at that in Clipbook Corner very shortly, but he's left himself with a lot of heavy lifting to do already in this race.
Certainly is. Watching from the rear wing of Lolly Nova, he's got Tim Modic still for company. The Aussie not letting the native Italian go. I think this will be a battle that we see for a while, as Ben doesn't seem interested in necessarily making the move. Lolly Nova, on the other hand, does want to go for it. Ben looks to the inside of turn 1. We've seen that go bad before for Team Modic GP. Hanging on to first place by hook or by crook. Lolly Nova will have to wait for another opportunity, but surely the soft tyres on the cars of GB and Ben will slowly be falling off. They will not be liking the lateral loads that have been put through them in the opening stages of this race when their cars are at their absolute heaviest. And this is Ben trying to make a move now on Lolly Nova, side by side as they make their way through 3 and 4. It's Lolly Nova to the inside. Ben tries to swoop it around the outside. Lolly Nova gets loose, and Ben is released to try and attack GB.
And that was important. GB, I think, does still just have a little shade of pace over Lolly Nova, but that was straight out of the Tim McMahon back catalogue, wasn't it? He's made some of the most impressive overtakes in the Creator Series, and add that one to the list. Check it off, everybody. Lolly Nova firmly put in his back pocket, and now he can set his sights on GB in front.
Well, 2 drivers that have been nerfed essentially by their car selection here in the realistic performance, showing that it's not necessarily about how good the car is, it's about the driver you put in the machine. Several movie quotes that state just very that. It's not about the car, it's about the driver, and Tim Modic and GB are proving that here this afternoon. Everybody in the top 6 in the lesser powered cars. Chapper's still hanging on for dear life in P6. Let's not forget he's a controller player, so has a slight disadvantage overall to those on a wheel. You can be less precise and less precise with your inputs than those on wheel and pedals, but still a fantastic achievement not only to qualify pole, but still hold off the likes of Alex Gillen, Razin Chai for so long.
It is interesting as well that second and third group that were behind this leading trio have now reformed. So Alex Gillen's got himself back into the 1 second window of Chappers. He's just about dragged Riccio 3 along with him, although the Mercedes now 1.2 off the back of the Sauber. Needs to get his skates on ever so slightly, bring Scott Taylor, bring Dak Gavins along as well, and then it's 4 seconds back to Formula Kai. Started from P19, got himself up to 11th, but has a lot of heavy lifting to do as well, Formula Kai, if he's to get back into contention to finish inside the top 3 in this race. And Meraki also just starting to close on that leading trio as well. Ben really underneath the rear wing of GB, examining the braking zone and the braking points of that kit Sauber going through the first sector. I think we could see a DRS train from first down to 10th reform very shortly.
Yeah, everyone's starting to pull themselves back together. Yellow flag, it looks like on the Scuderias has got off. That's Matt 212 who's had an instant turn 3, seeming to be a hot spot for those here this afternoon. That's a considerable amount of wing damage on that Ferrari. I've seen that at least once before today, and unfortunately Matt 212 will have to try and nurse that car back towards the pits. He doesn't look too disheartened about it at the moment. I think a little bit of regrettable action that he has just seen. He has still got a few drivers for company. James Early just behind him. Karim 7T as well, who of course is learning line off this season. So it is going to be a tough one for him to try and learn, especially being Baku as the first track to race competitively.
100%. A lot of heavy braking zones, got to be very precise, does Cream, and maybe just taking a little bit of time to acclimatise to it. And of course, if he does get a bad result here, that might just put him in a slightly better car going forward, because of course he finished 4th in the championship last season. That might just back him up ever so slightly more. What order are we going to be in, though, in this leading group of 3 cars by the time we get to turn number 1? Here comes Lonanova, looking for the smallest gap possible around the outside of Tim Hardick, who's thinking about taking the lead of the race for the very first time. Dangles the nose of the Haas down the inside of GB into turn number 1. The start of lap number 7 could see the lead change hands for the 3rd time. Still neck and neck between the Haas and the Kicksal, but Tim Hardick should have the high road into turn number 2 and does. But look at that Lolly nipping at the heels of GB as well. And Meraki's arrived on the scene too.
we're starting to see the soft tyres slowly degrade over time. GB wants that outside line in towards turn 3, an often place where we've seen drivers go wide. No way, they're going to neatly fit too wide through there, and they don't indeed. GB gets wobbly. Lolly Nova squeaks his way through, now into P2, but Timo Mardik will be thanking that he managed to squeeze his way. Not necessarily sure it was the cleanest way to get there, but he does retain the lead of this race, at least for now. Lap 7 of 51 here in Baku. It's Timo Mardik from Lolly Nova from GB. Meraki still on the scene though, with Razin Chai, who still holds the fastest lap over the course of this race. Gillen has dispatched Chappers for 7th place. Ricky 03, Scott Taylor, Vince and Kai making up your top 11 at the moment. They do make their way through.
And just a word on Jake, looking very, very strong on the hard compound tyres. Let's not forget, they took a little bit of time to get the temperature and the energy to work properly, but now starting to sing a very nice tune. I think Jake could be finding himself back up inside the top 3 for the first time since the opening salvos of this race. And GB definitely starting to struggle with those rear tyres in particular, all over the place through turn 16. Going to be incredibly vulnerable down to turn 1.
Absolutely they will. It's going to be pressure here from the drivers on the hards, and that is going to be Meraki at the moment. All the drivers in front of him, soft, medium, soft in that order. Lolly Nova has a little bit of advantage in towards the first corner. GB68 moves to the outside line. I think he's more interested in playing a bit of a team game here. I'll say that as he dives to the inside of the first corner, going incredibly wide. Meraki does as well. Through goes Alex Gillen, as does Razin Chai. A whole change in the order here, and that's all by one person's mistake. That's Meraki, who went incredibly deep.
Go Gillen, go. He's going to be setting. He's going to be thanking his teammate as well. GB went incredibly deep into turn 1, taking Meraki with him. They both nick a couple of places. Through go 2 former champions, the reigning one in Alex Gillen, and Razin Chai, the season 5 champion as well. And look at this, GB struggling to hold on to places. Chappers all over the back of him. There's Ricky 03 arriving on the scene as well. Scott Taylor, haven't spoken too much about the McLaren that started comfortably inside the top 10, lost places on those hard tyres to start with. Just starting to get himself back into contention as well. And there's GB's former teammate, Dakovitz, as well, on the back of this train, waiting for any opportunity to try and pick up the pieces. GB's really struggling into the back of Chappers. Goes Scott Taylor, getting his braking zone all wrong.
Yeah, all kinds of loose there in towards, what would that be, turn 7 in towards the castle section. They go no damage by the looks of it to report on the car of Scott Taylor. Is running the harder tyres, so I do wonder even if they've not fired up yet, or if he's just got that setup a little bit wrong for this stage in the race. They're still incredibly heavy on fuel as they make their way down towards turn 15. Got to get the braking zone. I say that as there is damage actually on that McLaren. Front left end plate missing for Scott Taylor, so that could be the explanation as to why he's struggling so much through that second sector. He won't have the downforce of those around him. And of course, this entire train that was within DRS range at one point in time, and now GB well and truly falling off the back of Meraki. 1.7 seconds to the disadvantage. Are we going to see GB pit here? I wouldn't be surprised at all. And into the pits comes the Sauber of GB.
I think he's starting to understand why the Sauber was seen as the worst car. The pace might not be too bad, but that tyre wear was absolutely abhorrent. Timo Mardik still soldiering on strong. He had in P1, half a second in hand over Lolly Nova. Soft in P1, medium P2, hard tyres in P3. And I don't think it's going to be too long until they probably end up in the opposite order. Alex Gillen coming on strong on those hard compact tyres. Watch for Meraki as well, who also looks very, very strong. Yes, he was almost taken off the circuit by GB, but kept himself inside the top 5. And a gap has opened up as well. GB has pushed that second group back 2 seconds between Meraki and Ricky.
Here's GB Team Radio coming across. Tyres are a big struggle, and I think we absolutely knew this could be the situation. The Sauber, in essence, isn't a bad car at all. They've got excellent straight line speed when it comes down to the nitty gritty. But actually, when you look at the tyre wear that the car produces, that is going to be the dominating factor that you've got to try and pay attention to. I think GB68 are really learning the hard way, as well quite a few of our creators. I've just noticed Matt212 in the background still running that incredible amount of wing damage here. It's Super Noodle Bagel trying to chase down Adam Sanderson in towards the castle section, just navigating that way through nice and tenderly to make sure no major mistakes are made. But I think he might have the Aston Martin's number here as they make their way down towards turn 15 as he backs off, sensible, just making sure he's not going to send any silly moves down the inside. I think Bagel is more concerned about the end product here as we approach 1/5 race distance.
Pretty concerned as well about how much sliding was going on at the back end of that Aston Martin. Those rear tyres look absolutely shot, as is the lead chances for Tim. And Martin bit into the wall. There was a bit of a squeeze there handed out by Lolanober and Ben. That was a bit of a miscommunication, you would imagine. Is there any damage? I don't think so, but that was a bit of a hairy moment and an unnecessary moment as well between Lolanober and Tim. I don't think Ben's going to be particularly enamoured by that as Lolly takes the lead back from the Haas car, and Alex Skinner would have had an absolutely lovely view of that and probably just chuckling to himself at what he saw unfold in front of him.
I think if it stays this way, we're going to have to employ someone to start bleeping all the swear words on Tim Marduk's clips that go out on social media, because I have a feeling there may be a fair few of them going out over the next week or so. Ricky 03, who has been bested by Chappers in that latter stage. You can see him struggling in terms of tyres. Ollie Noba comes across the team radio, what I can assume is Carl not being able to translate exactly what he's saying, in sheer Italian shock.
Wow. Well, I have no words as to what happened, because I don't know why you would go. We saw on the previous lap that Lolly was going around the outside when there was not a gap there to go around the outside, when GB, I think, was still in the lead of the race and Ben was battling away with the Sauber as well. He tried to force his car around the outside between a gap between the Haas and the wall that was probably not quite big enough, even though you've got all this free real estate to the left-hand side and you can head up the inside as well, outbraking and get the move done. So interesting decision-making going on from Lolanober there, but matters not. All's fine that all's well that ends well, and he has no front-wheel damage also, can continue to try and soldier on.
Absolutely. We head down towards starting lap 11. Lolanober still on the medium tyres. Tim Marduk and Razin Chai, those still opting for the softs. I do wonder if we're going to see anyone dive into the pit lane on this occasion. Tim Marduk seems to have fallen back from Lolanober. Maybe he wants to try and stay out of harm's way on this occasion, but it has left him right into the grasps of Alex Gillen, who, using the DRS, charges down towards the line. He'll get the move done, although Lolanober could be a sitting duck here, 3 wide as we make our way towards the first corner. Ben went to the right and goes deep. Alex Gillen makes the advantage, stays in the lead here, and Lolanober manages to retain second place by the barest of margins. That's an uncommon mistake from Tim Marduk in towards the first corner.
Well, his eyes turned to dinner plates there when he saw the closing speed up to the back of Lolanober, and then by the time he got to the braking zone, he realised that actually he wasn't particularly hungry, almost threw it into the barrier. Did well actually to keep it out of the wall and not pick up any damage, but judging by that, Ben losing a couple more places to Razin and Meraki, I don't think it's going to be too long before we see him into the pits to get shot of those soft compound tyres. Taking a little bit of pain now, might be worth it later on. Givi's going to have a decent undercut on him, but Ben, I think just things started to look a little bit hairy for him.
I'll tell you who is hungry. I can tell you one thing. It's Clipbook Carl. He's hungry for the inside scoop. Carl, what have you got for us?
Oh, finally. Time to annihilate the apex of Clipbook Corner. Well, first of all, let's head back to the race start, because this is what I love about Kareem. He's learning no racing line. Yes, he struggled with that. But when he's at the back of the grid, you can trust him to have a good race start. Look how aggressively the car is pointed. Immediately gets the most luscious launch I've ever seen in my entire life. 3 places already gained as they head into turn 1. Just note, look how tentatively everybody is taking it as the concertina happens at the back of the field. Down the inside, it's 3 wide briefly into turn number 3. All sorts of contact and conundrums as Adam Sanderson gets an almighty slap in the diffuser from Super Noodle Bagel. And Kareem says, thank you kindly. Of course, the momentum compromised for the McLaren man. Adam Sanderson left to charge his battery a little bit, but it's not Adam Sanderson that the Moroccan maestro actually manages to get. As down the inside goes Adam Sanderson. Such a game of momentum, this one. Scotty caught off the racing line. Less grip there. Plenty of purchase on the softs for Kareem. And he just dances round the outside of the prancing horse. Immaculate start. And we won't talk about what happened from there. Next up is Adam Sanderson, absolutely sending it. And it's Kareem, also back in the thick of the action. Goes for the move, barges into Suzuki, and quite rightly, a bit of sportsmanship as into the pits comes one of the Haas cars. I imagine that's soft tyres. Finally, it's Formula Kai, finally some tyres being put to bed. Sanderson absolutely sends it. Just about comes out unscathed. But this is the big one I want to highlight, and it's the mind games, the psychological aspect. The bit of tentativeness that we see, particularly from Lolanober. This is lap 5, ladies and gentlemen. Now, 2 things to note here. First of all, look how late. Of course, Lolanober had the overspeed, but GB, with such confidence, despite the soft tyres and everything, dances round the outside of the Williams driver. But this corner here, you can see, he's fighting the rear of the car. And that's only after 5 laps on the soft tyres. So, Tim Marduk on 10 laps plus worth of soft compound tyres. I have no idea how he's surviving. We see this again as we go on later with Ben on Lolin Oba. They head down towards turn number 3, late on the brakes as you dare, both of them with DRS in this case. And despite the compromise of tyre compound, Ben gets the move done, dances round the outside of one of the Italian stallions off the grid, and that's the American dream up into P2. However, just to balance things out, patience is a virtue. We see Williams on Williams action in the bottom left of your screen. I think hard tyres coming into a realm of their own here. But Lolin Oba, patience does indeed provide a virtue as GB and Ben fight it out on lap number 7. You can see again the rear sliding uncontrollably almost. And in this case, just to balance out the books, patience indeed a virtue. That's the ebbs and the flows. But back to you, TK and Tom Wilkinson, because the pit lane is getting lively.
Certainly is indeed. The pit lane's alive once again. Kai's in the pits, Razin Chai's in the pits. I'm a poet, and I didn't even know it. Razin rejoins just ahead of GB68. Fresh, hard tyres going onto the car of the V-Cub. His next nemesis ahead will be Safso, who retains P10 over the course of the last 13 laps. Everybody starting to find themselves with a little bit of comfort or discomfort with the cars learning the quirks and how to drive each one of them individually. And speaking of Safso, on the back of his good friend Scotty Designs, by the way, who are battling it out for P7 on track.
Interesting. I just want to go back to that duo behind. Razin Chai, I think he stayed out, 4 or 5 laps longer than GB there, and the Kick Sauber is only just behind him. So the undercut maybe not as powerful as we potentially thought. GB was really struggling on those soft tyres. They were burnt out after about 4 laps, weren't they, as we saw from Kai. He was sliding absolutely all over the place and hasn't really gained any of the time back he lost from this undercut. He's still got tabs on Razin in front of him, but going to have fresher tyres, Razin. If he can drop GB out of his DRS, which is touch and go at the moment, just under a second between the RB and the Sauber, GB's going to be staring down the barrel of having a pretty painful middle stint.
He absolutely will. I wonder how long he's going to try and take these tyres, because he'll know the driver in front of him has got fresher by 4 laps. He won't be expecting to take them until the end. Of course, we're not expecting rain. Breaking news, we're not expecting rain in Baku. But at the moment, Chapper's managed to get the better of Tim and Mardik. Is that Ben into the pits, or is that just a DRS overtake that we're seeing up at the front? I think it was just a DRS move. Chapper's on those harder tyres really starting to fire up. Ben still staying out on soft tyres. He's done 13 laps on a set of the softs. You must have to think now that he's losing more time than he looks to gain.
Well, there will be a couple of things in his mind as we just hold that thought, because Safso still all over the back of Scotty Designs, by the way. I think we could be seeing 9th and 10th position trade hands, although that is not a very good exit from Safso coming through turn 2, leaving himself with a little bit more work to do than he probably thought. As the yellow flag is out, I was going to say Tim Mardik potentially goal hanging for a safety car. The Mercedes of James Early off at turn 1. Safso almost clatters into the barrier himself into turn 3. Early manages to continue on. We're getting a shot of the rear of the car. I'd like to see the front, see if there's any damage. Well, considerable. That is the equivalent of, well, even if that, of a plank of wood on the front of that Mercedes car. Going to get very limited downforce. But just talking about Ben, I think he's A, just trying to take some pain now, and it will pay off later on in the race. B's maybe seeing the undercut isn't quite as powerful as we perhaps thought. And C, like we saw there with James Early, safety car's definitely a possibility. If he can just hang it out for a little bit longer, he will get that free stop over Razin, over GB, and get himself a leg up over the pair of them.
Well, he comes over the team radio pretty much instantly saying the tyres are not great now. I think anyone would have been able to tell you that if you wanted to take off 13 laps around the Baku street circuit. He'll be hoping, praying, maybe begging for a safety car to come in the next few moments. GB still on the back of Razin Chai. Hasn't been able, or hasn't allowed Razin to run off into the distance, just maintaining the status quo at the moment as they continue to make time on Safso and Scotty Designs, by the way, in front of them. Everybody, as you were saying, just starting to become accustomed to their car at the moment. Ben Pitts from 5th place, dropping down the order as those tyres well and truly fall off a cliff now after 14 laps of racing on them. No safety car to save his blushes. He does come in, a fresh set of hard tyres going on to the MoneyGram house car. Yellow flag coming out in the first sector. Another Mercedes going off, and I think that could be potentially the Mercedes of Ricciardo 3 getting it all sorts of wrong in towards turn number 2. Any damage to report? No, looks like he managed to find the runoff zone, but there will definitely be a brown trouser moment for the young Italian.
Really interesting though, isn't it? As diving down the inside goes Safso. We didn't see it from on board. I think there was a bit of contact there. Scotty's car was bouncing all over the place as the Alpine just appeared from absolutely nowhere and pushed Scotty down into position number 9. Razin and GB catching them hand over fist as well. But just going back to the Ricky incident, what's that, 4 or 5 cars we've seen now going into the escape rows? Yes, we saw a lot in real life, but It's not usually something we see in the Creator Series when we go to a circuit like Baku. Usually it's people just piling it into walls rather than making those mistakes under braking. So an interesting one there. Potentially drivers just struggling to acclimatise to their wheels ever so slightly. He was clattering the barrier there is Scotty. Very, very lucky he didn't chop off one of those wheels going through the castle section. Now trying to get out of the way as best as he possibly can. Just avoids the kick Sauber of GB. Going to continue on his way, but now with Tim Mollick catching him very quickly. Ben's been spat out of the pits around about 5 seconds off the back of Razin and GB, just for info.
Yeah, he'll be hoping to try and have the graces later on. You can see him on the back of Scotty Designs here. Not quite close enough to benefit from DRS, as Scotty, I think, is just trying to get back in that groove. He was running so long and so well with Safso just behind him. And of course, Safso decided he was sick of waiting behind the Ferrari, made that lunge down the inside, which I don't think any of us saw coming, and managed to gain the place up to P8. And I wouldn't be surprised if we do see a few more into the pits. Riccio 3 is one of them. He'll come off a set of the medium tyres, so obviously no one left on the softs from the opening stint. 2 more drivers remaining on the mediums here this afternoon. That'll be that guy Vince and Lolly Nova. And of course James Early, who pitted onto them. He's going for a second stint on a set of the medium tyres. Everybody else is hard, and they will be so for at least the next few laps or so.
GB's Haas not looking particularly good. Raz and Chai has absolutely scampered off into the distance. We wondered whether this would happen if GB fell out of the... Felled? That's definitely 2 words that don't exist. If he fell out of the DRS range of the RB of Razin, who's got 4 lap fresher tyres, would he be able to keep tabs on him? The answer is very much no. Leak 2 seconds to Razin, who continues to power off into the distance. And I think GB now, rather than thinking about Safso and Razin in front, going to have to focus on Ben behind.
That's going to be a looking forward, looking back situation at the moment, because as you were saying, Ben's got Scottish Designs right on his rear. 1.1 seconds, but he's got a considerable gap up to GB, stuck in somewhat of no man's land at the moment. The Haas car wanting a little bit of relief, but he makes his way through the second sector, through 13, 14, down towards 15, which I'm surprised we haven't seen more people pick their braking point wrong for this. We're seeing loads at turn 2, turn 3, but actually this downhill left-hander, which is so notorious in real life, we've seen very few actually messing up their braking zones, and I wonder if there's an element of over caution we're seeing from the drivers to make sure they don't DNF. They know they can run on at turn 2, turn 3, they've got those runoff zones, whereas turn 15 is so unforgiving. The moment you're committed, as a few drivers found out earlier, you just cannot uncommit from the corner.
100% agree, because I think you look at the castle section, you think that's the trickiest part of the circuit, but actually turn 15, you have to be so precise. We saw in qualifying, I think GB was one of them, absolutely launched it over the curbs on the inside, bounced over the curbs. The oscillations were quite significant, just trying to get the car through the corner as best as he possibly could. It worked out there, but maybe in a race like this, not wanting to take as big a risk. Interesting for GB. In the 45s on the previous apps, he blasts past Safso, who is still yet to stop in this race. GB's pace is very inconsistent. 1 minute he's in the high 43s, the next minute he drops into the low 1 minute 45s, which is the same pace as Alex Gillen's running. And we haven't spoken about the reigning champion too much since he got past Ben and got past Lolinoba. Alex Gillen looking very rock solid out in front. Gap 4 seconds at the moment, tracking very nicely. It's almost like we haven't got the realistic performance on, because different season, same story at the top, is Alex Gillen leading the way.
I think Gillen just really likes the Sauber. He wants to make sure that he's in it for at least next race as well. He's found comfort in the green highlighter, making his way through Baku. But we do keep an eye here on Formula Kai, who's got Matt 212 in front, Super Noodle Bagel just behind him. And at the moment, they're a little bit stuck in their own battle. Matt's still running that wing damage, which I find absolutely incredible. Either he was on incredibly high wings to start and has just become accustomed to the lower wing setup, or actually he was on low wings to start with and he's not feeling that much of a difference as he makes his way through. Surely it'll be costing him time, and I think you can see that in his lap times. If you look at the board, he's doing 145s highs. Sort of, he hasn't really fluctuated much out of the 145s. It's not a slow lap by any means. We've had drivers into the 46s, the 47s over the course of the race lap, but it hasn't seemed to impact him as much as we would typically expect to see. Lolly Noba here, or was, on the back of Chappers. We do watch Kai making a move potentially on Matt 212. Lolly Noba to the outside before we even get towards the long straight. I think Matt is now preparing for his pit stop. It looked like he wanted the inside line. No, he stays out, but the Ferrari wants the slipstream that the Haas is going to give him. Equal engines in those cars, not equal in design though, as Matt slams on the anchors to make sure he doesn't go into the back of Formula Kai. Super Noodle Bagel, with all the seasoning, make sure that he holds on to the DRS of those in front.
I'm looking at Matt 2-on-2. The front wing damage doesn't look to be hampering him too much. Looks fairly okay through turns 1 and 2 there. So even though he's pretty much running no front wing on the front of that Ferrari car, the setup would probably expect to see very low wings anyway, so I don't think it will compromise him as much as maybe it would around a higher downforce circuit. Super Noodle Bagel is going to try and lap this up though very quickly, a further second off the back of them. Then it's Riccio 3 who we see make a mistake, the same as Kareem 17, the season 9 champion, not getting off to the best of starts, down in 16th, although he is running without racing line for the very first time. Gap between GB and Tim Malik has actually extended a little bit, so GB just finding his feet ever so slightly again as Matt 2-1-2 slices off the corner, going through turn number 7 and picks up the first corner cutting penalty of the race.
I wonder if this now changes his driving attitude, and I wonder if he didn't want to pit because he's on those harder tyres, wanting to go long on this stint and didn't want to effectively burn away a set of those harder tyres, smacks himself into the wall as he tries to go through turn 14 with incredible speed, does so with 15 as well, but that time with expert precision. Super Noodle Bagel and Riccio 3 just following on behind in camera shot, but the hard tyres are an incredibly good race tyre here. Less than 2% a lap wear, so in theory they could probably do the whole 50 laps we have seen in previous years. I believe it was Alex Albon that went for a considerable number of laps on a hard set of tyres here, but of course Ocon as well, I think, who wanted to pit last lap in 2024 in real life Formula 1, and everybody in the pit lane got caught out then.
Yeah, I think was it the race where he almost ran over some cameramen in the pit lane, which wasn't particularly nice to see at all. There goes Riccio 3 down the inside, getting 14th place off the hands of Super Noodle Bagel, and finally in front as well, two former teammates trading blows. Tim Malik has disposed of Safso, still yet to stop in this race so far. Ben up into P9, 4 seconds off the back of GB. I've just heard somebody absolutely clatter the barrier somewhere around there. I can see Scott Taylor's still got that damage. I wonder if it was maybe him that smacked the wall going through turns 5 and 6, potentially, not quite sure.
Yeah, it certainly is interesting to keep an eye on top 6, just to keep you informed on pit stops. The top 6 are yet to pit. Safso Scotty Designs, by the way. We've got Matt 2-1-2 and, of course, the McLaren of Super Noodle Bagel. Those drivers are all yet to pit here this afternoon. 10 of them in total. All of them, surprisingly, bar 2 of them on a hard set of tyres. I believe it's Lolly Nova and that guy Vince are opting for the mediums in the opening 19 laps of this stint. We are being told, though, that Alex has done better on his tyres than Meraki in the opening, essentially 50% of this race so far. Only a couple of percentage points between the two of them. It's a small margin in terms of wear, but it is one that is worth noting, especially as we go longer into this hard tyre stint. Super Noodle Bagel picks up the second penalty of the race, another 3 seconds going to the McLaren Basin. Woking Razin Chai deciding to work with what was the old Aston Martin, now finds himself in Razin's old seat and makes his way up to 6th place.
And just going back to that Alex Gillen-Meraki battle, it's actually really interesting if you look at the times as well, because they are going blow for blow. One lap, Alex is a little bit quicker. The next lap, Meraki pulls it back. It's really interesting to see it just fluctuating, hovering around that 4-second mark as Riccio 3 charging through the field, getting past Matt 2-1-2 down in 13th and 14th. But Alex clearly isn't pushing quite as hard as Jake. He's looking after those tyres nicely. And you have to say, considering the tyre wear that we saw from GB on those softs, Alex doing a really commendable job to keep those rear tyres in particular in very decent nick.
Being told Tim Maddox hit the wall somewhere, has got some wing damage. So the driver's currently running in 9th place, just in front of Safto. We're seeing the battle here at the moment as they make their way through turns 5 and turn 6. Keep an eye on the Haas that is in front of the Alpine. See if we can spot any wing damage on Ben's car. Front right end plate looks intact. Front left end plate was intact as well. So maybe it's a bit of minor damage for Tim Maddox, but it will be affecting how fast he can navigate through these tighter, high-speed corners. That's where we'll really start to notice it here in Azerbaijan.
He hasn't had great pace generally, though, on these hard compound tyres. Still 5 seconds off the back of GB. Razin is out in a different stratosphere, maybe 10 seconds up the road from the former 2-time champ. So Ben just struggling a little bit in this phase. He looked so strong, didn't he, in the early salvos on the soft compound tyres. That pace hasn't quite translated onto the hards. And if he's slightly hampered as well by a bit of front wing damage he's picked up, that is not going to be a very nice stint. Yellow flag is out. We don't have the track map, so we can't see where it is. It's a Red Bull in the wall. I think it might be Tukey taking a trip into the escape road for the second time this race, as there goes GB, passing his former Aston Martin teammate of Datko Vince, who is also still yet to stop in this race.
Yeah, GB really finding some time on the harder tyres. Of course, started on those softs, took them 8 laps, just 4 laps less than we saw from Razin Chai, who still stands in front of him by a margin of 2.8 seconds. Razin already on the back of Scott Taylor, still rocking a set of the hard tyres from race start. And I wonder if Razin is really starting to find some pace as well. He's got the freshest hard tyres of anybody on the grid, or at least within the top 7 at the moment. So he's got to try and make them work as long as he can.
If we don't see a safety car at any point, we are going to see what is stronger out of the 1 and the 2 stop. Alex Gillen, Meraki Chappers, and potentially Lolanover as well, extending these medium tyres. They're probably locking themselves into the 1 stop. Same with Scott Taylor as well, who's got Razin Chai tucked up right underneath the rear wing of that Papaya McLaren car. Razin, GB, Ben as well, all starting on the soft tyres. They've sort of put themselves in this box, haven't they, with the 2 stop as he claps the barrow. Got a McLaren that's potentially off. I think that's Super Noodle Bagel, who's had a bit of an excursion going through turn 4, I think that is. Maybe on the inside, not sure how he's ended up there. He's going to continue on, albeit now 7.5 seconds off the back of map 2 on 2, and he has got front wing damage. Yeah, missing that right hand end plate. But the strategy game will continue to unfold. GB's definitely finding his feet now as well. And we'll see what the balance between the 1 and the 2 stop truly is in about 10 laps time.
I'm really enjoying this becoming a strategy race. I wonder, just out of pure curiosity, if anybody has underfueled in preparation. Because last time we've had Baku, the last 2 times we've run Baku, we've seen safety car after safety car, and Razin now getting past Scott Taylor, which will make him up to P5. Scott Taylor, without the DRS, couldn't really do anything to defend there. But so often before here, we've seen safety car breed safety car, and it's not necessarily the way that we've seen this race go so far. And if those drivers have underfueled in preparation for 1, maybe 2 safety cars, they're really going to have to start to consider, right, when do we maybe start saving the fuel? Because 1 may never come.
Unsurprisingly, our man on the ground, Clip Bacall, is already on it, telling us that Alex Gillen, 1.8 down on fuel. That would maybe explain why his tyres are in good condition. A lot of lift and coasting going on, looking after the rear tyres as he lifts off into the braking zone. So that trade-off actually of underfueling, yes, you've got to save fuel, but it is going to keep your tyres in better condition. That's probably what's giving Alex a bit of a leg up over some of his rivals. Jake is up on fuel, we're hearing 0.6 laps on fuel, so he's going to be pushing a bit harder and at the same time using his tyres a little bit more.
Absolutely, and of course it's less weight on the tyres, less lateral load that you'll have to be carrying through the corners. We're keeping an eye on Adam Sanderson, who's approached up to the back of Super Noodle Bagel, makes their way through turn 3 in towards 4 and 5, and just making sure that the pass is going to be clean. The place where Super Noodle Bagel had his little whoopsie this time last lap, so we'll be looking not to replicate the same again, although he does completely miss the apex as he makes his way through turn 5. Adam Sanderson will be chomping at the bit to try and get through as well. And we've been told by Clip and Carl, you'll never guess what Ben did with fuel. In early predictions that he might have underfueled here. But one thing that is worth mentioning here, Tom, and obviously we've had the whole debate internally and externally as well with quite a few people in the comment section around intentional safety cars. And if you're new to the Creator Series, it's worth mentioning that intentional safety cars are not only kind of expected, but recommended. If a driver gives up on the race, they are encouraged to crash it into a wall to bring out a safety car and cause a little bit of carnage in a race such as this, where it is so diversely spread across the field. Now, in previous seasons, or season 10 especially, the limit was set with 15 laps to go. They could not cause a safety car after that point had crossed. With the introduction of season 11, that limit has been lowered to 10 laps towards the end. So from lap 41 in this case, we will no longer see an intentional safety car. How's that going to maybe develop the strategy for a few of these guys?
I don't think it will change too much because a lot of the drivers now do plan for the safety car. Somebody like Ben bases his entire strategy around late race safety cars. He wants the best tyres available to him right in his arsenal, right at the end of the race, if indeed we do see that late race safety car. So I don't think it will have necessarily too much of an effect strategy-wise. Psychologically, though, for somebody like Alex Gillen, he will be sweating a little bit more. If he gets to lap 41, he is in the lead of the race still by a fairly decent whack. He's going to be just sweating a little bit more. The trade-off is, of course, because the safety car will naturally come maybe a little bit later in the race, he will have less time, or the drivers behind, will have less time to try and get past him. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword, if you like. It could make the racing better. It could make the racing a little bit hard for a couple of drivers. Strategy-wise as well, I don't think it necessarily has that much of an impact on the tyres you're running, but psychologically, definitely.
I think paradoxically as well, obviously, and our producers raised a very good point with us in our little communication chat. We're probably expecting to see less just on how the point scoring works this season, because if you DNF, that doesn't count as a 0. It's just abstracted from your positions report, essentially. It doesn't benefit you to DNF from a race. It won't help you climb up into a better car than, say, if you were finishing down in P20. So I think we're going to see that double edge of they don't want to crash out because they want to try and keep going and at least finish the race to have that position scored for them. So unless we see maybe a car that is absolutely stranded, they've given up, maybe a personal issue comes up, we're not going to see those drivers not wanting to finish the race anymore.
It'd be a really interesting balancing act, won't it? People deliberating, oh, I don't really want to race anymore, but I want to keep this McLaren or this Red Bull or this Ferrari. Speaking of Ferraris, I think one of them went very wide into turn one. Potentially Scotty Designs, by the way, yes, just in the background. Lonanova, by the way, has been down pit road. Excellent opening stint from the Williams on the medium compound tyre, setting himself up very, very nicely to challenge probably for a spot on the podium.
Being told Alex is slowly regaining what underfuel he took at the race start. Of course, as the car gets lighter, easier to lift and coast as well. Save some of the fuel in that car. Lonanova just locking the brakes in towards turn 4. Just making sure that they're nice and toasty to make sure he can try and challenge Ricky 03 if he wants to try and send a move down the inside. I've seen one of the worst messages in the YouTube chat informing us that Ben is barefoot racing.
That is absolutely abhorrent. I'm not even going to comment on that. That is horrendous.
It's information that I really didn't need to know at, 7:15 on a Saturday. I was having a rather enjoyable Saturday afternoon.
I just can't imagine what you would go. Just sweaty. I don't need that in my life, please.
We'll focus on the race for now. He does stand P7. As Carl says, he must love the new pedals. They must
Can't be ruining them. That's the problem. Don't want to ruin them day one.
You're just breaking them in, just making sure that they're nice and accustomed to your foot shape.
Well, I think we might have to agree to disagree on that one.
Speaking of which, so he is in P7 and on the back of Scott Taylor as they make their way down towards turn 1, thinking about a move in towards the first corner. So we watch Lolly Noba on the back of Formula Kai. DRS will open on their also approach down to turn 1. It is the fastest lap set by Lolly Noba, 43.220 for the Atalassian Williams racing car. GB gets past Chappers as well, so retakes P4 from where he once qualified. Of course, Chappers still sticking out with the big guns, which is an incredible run from Chappers. It must be admitted that we're a half race distance so far. He's still at P5. Obviously, he's yet to pit off the harder tyres which he started on. But should we see that late race safety car, he'll have somewhat fresher tyres if he then wants to go for track position.
He's got himself a lot of flexibility with how he's played this race. And it goes back to something we actually mentioned at the start, where we thought, and I don't think wrongly thought, that those drivers that are in the slower cars, yes, they're in the worst machinery, but they've got the experience and they've got the consistency, Keely, that means that when we get to the end of the race, they are still more likely than not to be towards the sharp end. What we're seeing, though, from the likes of Chappers, from the likes of Scott Taylor as well, these drivers have got really good race consistency. If they're in a decent position, they can manage their race very strongly and leave themselves a lot to play for going into the back half of the Grand Prix.
They certainly can indeed, and that will be their main focus now. We're pretty much at 50% race distance. Still no rain expected, which I am slightly sad to see. I do love it when it rains in Azerbaijan because it does cause chaos. Much like you see rain in Singapore, it does often lead to the race being somewhat entertaining. Not that it hasn't been so far, I think that's worth saying. But Ricky 03 still on the back of Lolly Noba, who in turn is on the back of Formula Kai, making their way down towards the first corner through turn 19 and 20. The question will be, are they going to try and send a move? I think Lolly Noba could be lining up for one here with the use of DRS and Slipstream coming into play. The Haas of Formula Kai could be looking to lose positions. He loses one. Is he going to lose two? If Ricky 03 thinks he's close enough to send the lunge, no, sensibly does not go down the inside, and that is going to be one that we have to maybe keep an eye on because it's been a favoured move of drivers in seasons gone by.
100%, but he will be thinking about turn 3. If he can get a good exit out of turn 2, Formula Kai's done 14 laps on this set of tyres that he's currently rocking hard compound tyres as I think through goes, yes, Safso actually getting out of the way of all three of those cars very sportingly and probably spares the blushes actually of Formula Kai, keeps him ahead of Riccio 3 just for the time being, although you think it is probably a matter of time before they swap around. Ricky with 5 lap fresher tyres than the Haas car and has actually shown some really decent pace. Yes, he's made a couple of mistakes, but watch for Ricky in the latter stage, especially if we get a safety car, could get himself a very decent haul of points.
I do wonder why Safso's just pulled out of the way of those cars, because that is a battle for position, essentially. Let's not forget. Lolly Nova comes over the team radio. Molto bene, molto bene. I think he's saying thank you, if my Italian's any good. We got a yellow flag. It looks like Karim and Super Doodle Bagel have got all caught up at the exit of turn 3 into the runoff again. We're going to try and assess for damage. Super Doodle Bagel had that damage already, but I wonder if Karim's got any, and that's a yellow flag. James Early is out at turn 1. Safety car, and oh my goodness, that Tukey the wall as well.
Well, something has gone severely wrong there. They've definitely tripped over each other. Tukey with a 10-second penalty as well for a severe collision with James Early. We'll have to get Carl on Clipbook Corner to have a little bit of a chat, a little bit of a chinwag about what's happened there. Golden opportunity for Alex Gillen to come into the pits, maybe slightly earlier than he would have hoped. He's only just passed 50% race distance and he's getting rid of those hard compound tyres that have served him very, very nicely in this race. Interestingly though, on Alex Gillen, he is sat on 2 warnings. Now we're not sure whether they're both corner cutting warnings or one of them is for a collision early on, but maybe we'll be driving on eggshells a little bit in the second half of this race.
I was doing some mental maths in my head a couple of laps ago to try and figure out when the mediums became a viable tyre until the end of the race. Scott Taylor taking a front wing replacement there. My maths said roughly around lap 27-28, because we've had Lonnie Nova, who took the medium tyres, 22 laps. So I was trying to do the maths in my head roughly around then. But obviously the safety car now brings them back into contention from probably 26-27, which is what we're on at the moment. Therefore, the mediums, in theory, will get to the end, especially with the lighter fuel load. So, medium tyres will work in the opening stint. Harder tyres will have the better run towards the end. The question will be, can they keep the tyres alive for that long?
As well, can they keep themselves in touch with Alex Gillen and with Meraki? Can those hard tyre runners cling on in the early stages when they try and get the temperature in the tyres? We saw at the start of the race, the warm-up on these hard compact tyres was just a little bit tricky to manage. You were going to lose places, especially with drivers on soft tyres around you. Everybody is sort of in the same place. You've got a big bunch of drivers on the hard tyres from 3rd down to P8 of Tim, with the exception of Chappers. Watch out for him on the restart, going to be racy on those medium compact tyres. So they're affording a little bit more of an opportunity just to try and work the tyres in a little bit easy. But for someone like Ben, maybe under a little bit of pressure, they've just got to keep themselves in the game, take it long, take it deep, and then by the time we get to lap 40 plus, they're going to be coming back at the 2 drivers out in front.
Tukey over the team radio saying that was an accident. I'd love to have a replay and see what went on. We've been told by Carl and Clipbook Corner, so Tukey just absolutely sledgehammered James Early, and I'm sure we'll go into in the moment so he can completely break down what was happening. I've been informed as well in the Twitch chat. Molto bene means very good by our resident Italian Eyes Amusing, who is definitely not French or British, but either way has very much helped me with the translation there. So we are pretty much on standard order. Everyone's starting to line up back behind Bert Mylander, who makes his first appearance here after, 26 laps of race. And Gillen leads from Meraki, both of those on the medium tyres. Razin Chai, Lolly Nova GB all on hards. Lolly Nova was able to stay out and recoup track position after everybody else dived into the pits. And similar situation implied by that guy Vince, who's now on 6-lap-old harder tyres with Chappers on 1-lap-old mediums. And the rest of your top 10 is Tierman Marduk, Scott Taylor and Ricky O3.
Make for a very interesting second half of this Grand Prix. Dak Vince, haven't spoken too much about him. Running nicely, albeit on 6-lap-old hard tyres, fitting not long before the safety car came out. Similar boat Lolly Nova is in as well, still up there in P4, but just at a slight disadvantage tyre-wise compared to some of the drivers around him. I was trying to watch the Tukey clip, and we're going to head over to Clipbook Corner very shortly. However, I tried to watch and it said this content may not be appropriate for you to watch. So Carl describing it as an absolute sledgehammering from Tukey to James Early is clearly exactly what happened. Carl, can you take us through it? Because I'd like to watch it for the first time.
I will in a sec, mate. Let's put it this way, it's not for the faint of heart. First of all, though, let's track back to lap number 15 of this Grand Prix. We had Safso versus Scotty Designs. There was a little bit of contact, actually, on the straight. Not too dissimilar to what happened with Lolly and Ben earlier in the day. I'll be honest, I've seen Saf look happier, so I don't know if there was something that happened with Scotty earlier. Whatever the case, side by side into turn 1, Saf thinks he's got the job done. I think there may have been more contact, but a wibble and a wobble from the Alpine puts that out of the question. Next, though, he decides to throw absolute caution to the wind. There's the yellow flag and the rejoining Mercedes of Ricky O3. But DRS and electrical energy, maximum flappage, down towards turn number 3. Scotty already flashing the battery into none. Safso down the inside, almost doesn't get it stopped in time. It's ruthless, it's cutthroat, but he does crucially get through into P8. And then later on in that same particular lap, Scotty is a moment into the castle section. Turns in, actually I think squirrels on the brakes a little bit. Gets it all crossed up, so lucky not to get damaged. What happens next though, everybody else is so lucky that there wasn't a massive accident as he's sitting on the apex for lack of a better term. But luckily everybody is safe. This is what happened with Ben, and I think if memory serves me correctly, it was Mr. TK that said, we haven't seen a mistake into this corner yet. Well, guess what? Your prayers have been answered. Brakes just a bit too late, too much speed, and it's minor damage, but it is damage nonetheless for the Haas driver, the American Dream, descending into a nightmare. Now, this one was just quite funny, really. We've got Kareem, who makes a mistake again. It happened earlier in the race as well. Into turn 4, gets it all crossed up, locks up the tyres royally, spins around, and oh, hello, who's this? Super Noodle Bacon making an identical error, tries to flick spin it straight into Kareem. Not his finest moment, I'll be honest with you, but both of them licking their wounds and rejoining the track. Moments later, though, this would happen. So, brace yourselves, ladies and gentlemen. If you are easily offended or of the faint heart, look away now. So, Tukey and James Early side by side into turn number 1. Nothing inherently wrong here so far. Everything is fine. I can reveal Tukey said there's now going to be a safety car. So he was aiming to create a safety car. And I don't know whether he absolutely... it's the biggest misjudgment I've ever seen, or whatever the case. I don't know what consolation there is. Need I say more about what's going to happen next? Straight into James Early, straight into the wall. And if that face from Tukey isn't an indication of how much of a complete clustercluck it is, I'll let you do the anagram for that one. But if that isn't a complete... I don't know what is. Basically. So that's why we're on the safety car here in the Baku Grand Prix. And now I hand it over to Tom Squared, who I imagine their jaws have just hit the floor.
Words. I have absolutely no idea how to... I'm so glad Carl was there to take us through that, because there's a lot of words I think we could use right now. Not many of them appropriate for a broadcast and all your lovely ears back at home. But Tom, we've seen a lot of creative ways that drivers have ended their races here in the Creator Series. Many, well, some more dramatic than others, let's put it that way. I think that has to take the biscuit, at least for season 11.
So far, yes. It was interesting. I completely agree with Twitch telling me that viewing was not suitable for watching. It was interesting when Carl paused it just as they were approaching the braking zone. If you're from the UK, it felt a bit like a you've been framed, what happens next moment. What's going to happen? Is he going to dive it in? Is he going to smack into the back of him? He chose the latter. Interesting tactics, I think is the best way to put it. Obviously, they're both out of the race. James Early, probably right. You will feel maybe ever so slightly aggrieved about that one. But sometimes that's the way the cookie crumbles. Unfortunately for James Early, the cookie's absolutely melted in the tea he's dipping it into, and he finds himself taking an early shower. Not a lot to do with his own driving either.
No, and it's somewhat unfortunate when you have an incident like that where it actually comes down to it and it's not your fault at the end of the day, and one that we unfortunately don't really want to see. And people in the Twitch chat and the YouTube chat, we've seen it. Trust me, we've seen it. And I'm sure it's something that will be discussed at the end of the race when it all is said and done. It will be something that is discussed from our point as well. We've been told at least one of the styrophobia points, though, has been claimed for this afternoon. I don't know if we've got Carl able to quickly drag that up for us and throw it across to him. And it has. We're going to go back to Carl.
Hello everybody, I'm back again. Next Apex to annihilate in Clipbook Corner. Adam Sanderson. Nobody else has spotted it yet, but there he is. He spots his prey, and with predatorial instinct, that, ladies and gentlemen, is an extra point. Here in the Baku Grand Prix, it even resets his car. Such is the magnitude of the impact with the polystyrene. Regardless, your styrophobia point, you can clunks over the board for extra effect, really. But there you go. Extra point in the Aston Martin camp. Adam Sanderson, quite clearly, a bit happy with himself.
Absolutely fantastic, and I'm so glad someone noticed that extra point, because I'd messaged Hayden when the wild card was announced. I know you've done this for trolls because all of them are up on the railings, but I'm fairly sure there's at least 2 points there. One at the entry to the pit lane and one at the exit of the pit lane. I couldn't remember if the exit of the pit lane's up on the barriers as well, but I knew for certain one of the entry was certainly on the floor. Race controls come across then to let us know that we will be going racing at the start of lap 31. And it looks like Meraki's got no intention of letting Gillen have a peaceful restart here, as they do go side by side even before they've made their way through turn 19 and 20. There's still a long run down towards turn 1, lads here. You've got to be careful if you want to go side by side. Gillen not leaving Meraki any room on the outside. He does not want to car alongside him for this restart. He is well and truly happy to control the pace of this restart as it crawls down to a slow, or slows down to a crawl, should I say, as we hit turn 20, the final apex before the run down towards turn 1. There's no way of saying it here. We've got a car park in Azerbaijan. Alex Gillen as the leader. Meraki wanting to try and stay as close to him as possible, but Gillen's caught him napping, and the run down towards the timing beam starts. The weaving begins for the Sauber as he wants to try and break as much turf as he possibly can towards the timing beam towards turn 1. And on lap 31, we're green flag racing again. Gillen leads from Meraki, Razin Chai and Lolly Nova third and fourth. GB wanting to try and get early moves on Lolly Nova as well. Make his way up to P4 as we look to go 3 wide further back, as it's going to be Mercedes of Riccio 3 trying to send his car down the inside of what was, I believe, Formula Kai, who couldn't quite get the car stopped. Again, 2 abreast as Razin now tries to look on Meraki. Meraki tries to hold it around the outside, does so successfully, and it's still Meraki in second place.
But look in the lead, Alex Gillen afforded the opportunity to scamper off into the distance. He's nearly got 2 seconds in hand over the group behind. And Meraki now is going to be cursing Raz and sending it up the inside because they've lost so much time. And look at that, GB and Nova getting a little bit touchy-feely with each other going through turn 6 and 7. Down the inside, is it? No, GB backs out of that one. There was a bit of contact, though, between the Williams and the Sauer just a few moments ago. Tim Wallett was also left napping a little bit on the restart, dropped over a second to Dak Gavins in front, had to fend off his teammate, had to fend off Riccio 3 as well. As Scott Taylor's tumbling through the field. I think the Papaya McLaren has taken a trip off the road.
It looks like he's got caught up at the entry to Castle section. That's going to be turn 8 that he has stopped at. So I wonder if Scott Taylor's got damage. Maybe he just clipped the wall, or if he managed to get into that runoff zone at turn 8. You know, just on the right-hand side, if he's managed to anticipate that he's not going to make the corner. Gillen, though, with over a 2-second advantage to Meraki, an incredible race lead in just a singular lap. The medium tyres really firing up in clean air.
100%. Meraki, though, under the cosh now, because Alex Gillen now 2.2 seconds ahead of the Season 4 champion, been given a lot of free real estate to drive into as the reigning champion. His teammate in the move, he's in the groove, on the move as he's sending it up the inside of Lonanova into turn number 1. His hard tyres have definitely lit up the track, and he's got past that Williams and Lonanova up into P4. Chappers on the mediums, let's not forget as well, just thinking about maybe trying to find an opportunity to get through. Tim Roddick's actually dropped behind his teammate as well. Formula Kai up ahead of Ben.
Yeah, it looked like one of the house actually smacks the wall there on the exit of turn 2. I wasn't quite sure which one managed to have a bit of a tap with the barrel. Recchio 3 going for an audacious lunge on not 1 but 2, locks up, but manages to get it stopped just before taking out Formula Kai. And what a fantastic move that was. Kai slams his teammate into the wall. Whether he knew he was there or not, there will be questions asked internally at the Haas garage as Ricky loses both of those places that he once gained. Kai and Ben going side by side again. The battle internal well and truly not over. Ben becomes victorious this time, but he's got front wing damage.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether that's the wing damage he had before or whether he didn't fix it into the pits, but it's not good news at all, is it? Because he's still going to be ever so slightly compromised by that front wing damage. It was a big whack into the barrier, courtesy of his teammate, no less. And Team 1 for Formula Kai, they've definitely had their spars over their Creator Series careers so far. Now teammates, but not necessarily working in perfect harmony. Riccio 3 and Saps will be licking their lips at the prospect of picking up a couple of places, but 2 seconds now off the back of the leading group.
Interesting to see. Ben's got damage on his left front wing. He would have got it on the right if he'd smacked the wall at turn 15. That damage has come from elsewhere. Where it's come from, I don't quite know, but I'm sure we will be able to have a view back later on. I'm sure Ben will share his frustrations with the group, as he does love to do. But Chappers now on the back of Lonnie Noble on the run down towards the first corner. Which way is he going to go? Looks to the left now as he makes his way towards the first corner. Look at this GB though, going slowly, lost without DRS, closes the door on Chappers. Lolly Nova goes through around the outside, gets the move done. They're still side by side on the exit. GB might have the better run towards the first corner. Can he go late on the brakes? No. He's going to slot in behind Lolly Nova. We'll wait and debone Chappers as we've got more yellow flags. That's going to be Karim 70, who's had an incident at the exit of turn 2. His safety car, or at least a virtual safety car, has been deployed for the first time here.
Yeah, dropped down to last place. I think he may have either dropped it coming out of turn 1 or potentially just been sent on his merry ways by somebody. A bit of a tete-a-tete between himself and one other driver that was in the lower half of the field. Not sure necessarily who he was battling with. He wasn't particularly high up, Cream, it has to be said, but the race goes from bad to worse, just struggling to acclimatise without that racing line turned on. It's going to take a little bit of time before we see the best of Cream 70, you would imagine, in this series, or in this season, I should say. Yeah, not been a great Azerbaijan Grand Prix for him so far. Obviously came ever so close to winning it last season, finished second on the road behind Razin Chai, but Razin getting a little bit of a helping hand from his teammate Tom Biener over the line.
He certainly did, and what a race that was to remember. Grim over the team radio just saying, I don't know where to brake with DRS, and that's a massive factor that you don't always accompany when you lose the Rainbow Snake, or the racing line as it's more commonly called. You lose that reference to brake, especially, even if you practice it when you have no DRS. You then have the situations where you've got the overspeed with ERS, with DRS, with different factors coming into play, and you have to pick a different brake marker board. We have gone green flag racing once again here. Gillen still leads by 2.5 seconds, but I think Razin Chai got a better restart than he was hoping for and has closed the gap by half a second. Gillen might have got caught in a corner there.
100%, but he's still 2.5 seconds clear. Razin and Meraki are going to continue to debate second and third, you would imagine. Currently a Williams 3-4. Can it be a Williams 2-4? Because pulling out to the right-hand side goes the Season 4 champion, who I think is going to absolutely blast past the Season 5 champion. They trade blows once again. GB not particularly close to the back of Lolanoba, so as one Williams moves forward, the other one does not move backwards, and Lolly will stay in P4 for the time being, 1.1 seconds off the back of Razin Chai. And Scarlet Civil War perhaps got his designs battling away with his teammate Matt 2-on-2, who goes very, very close to whacking the barrow on the exit of turn 1.
He's got to be careful, still stuck in a little bit of dirty air behind his teammate, and I wonder if there'll be any team orders down at Ferrari to try and shift these cars. Of course, no Constructors' Championship here in Season 11. It will be every driver for themselves, so we won't see the antics like we saw between the Alpines last time around in Season 10. What a wonderful way it was for Razin to get the win, though. Certainly one that will be memorable for many seasons to come. Riccio 3 on the back of Formula Kai here, but he's still got Sapso for company, and Ferraris have sorted their internal civil war, or have they? As Scotty designs why they wanted to go to the inside. Matt 2-1-2 well and truly had slammed the door on him. I think Scotty was trying to force it open, albeit unsuccessfully at the first time of asking. Gillen still leads though, but the lead is coming down. Meraki is starting to make inroads.
And that Ferrari battle was interesting because obviously they got very close to turn 1. I think it was Matt chucking it up the inside into turn number 5. Scotty's saying, no, you're not having any of that. But then eventually coming off second best in that little exchange. Was there somebody sideways maybe on the run into turn 15? Yes, I think Datka Vince has made a bit of a blunder, dropping behind Formula Kai. No, just briefly falling down into position number 8, getting it back, but has lost nearly 2 seconds to Chaps in front of him. I definitely saw him almost try a reverse entry drift, it looked like, from the wide shot down to Pete into turn 15. And that is not good news at all. Another yellow flag out. That's Kareem off again at the back. Is that a safety car? A virtual safety car, definitely. I can't see the yellow dot in the pits, so no, Kareem definitely still struggling with that front wing damage, and he's going to end this race just there.
Well, decided that he's had enough after 34 3/4 laps, so he does dive into the wall. It does remain a virtual safety car, I believe, at the moment. I still can't see Bert Meilander making an appearance. Scott Taylor will be happy, though. He gains an extra position. No, there we go. Full safety car has been declared. That guy Vince comes over the team radio. This car is diabolical. I'm sure there'll be people that'll be wanting much more happy words from the Alpine star, but I'll tell you who we haven't spoken to much this afternoon. I feel we certainly need to have a little word with it. It's lovely Jess, who is our presenter for this afternoon. Jess, why don't you walk us through how things have been from your point of view?
Well, 2 safety cars that have come into the mist here in Baku, which gives a chance to open up the race a little bit. But our first race with realistic performance, it's been a great one to watch in terms of strategy. Of course, you got to talk about Alex Gillen first. Started the race from 10th spot. He was on those hard tyres for quite a bit of the race until we had our first safety car. Same with Meraki in P2. Those two have been having some very good battles between each other, but Alex Gillen making his way up into P1 at the moment and managing that kick salber really nicely. Razin Chai, also another driver that's gained quite a few places in this race. Started 12 up into 30. Started on the softs though, and he was on the softs for quite a bit of time. Same with T with Marduk, who's down in 11th, and he was able to go onto the hards, and he's been on 2 sets of hards for the majority of this race so far. Hasn't been on the mediums yet, so I wonder if he's going to go onto the mediums a little bit later on. Just like we saw with Lonnie Nova, who started second in this race, was on those tyres for 22 laps for the start of it, and he's been on those hards for 12 laps. I wonder if he'll come into the pit very soon. GB68, another driver who's been on the second set of the hard tyres. A common theme here in the Creator Series this evening, where we've seen the harder strategy being selected by most of our drivers. I think quite a few drivers will take their second stop. Some people opting to stay out. Another driver who I like to keep an eye on this evening, Formula Car. He started in towards the back of the grid in the Haas, and he's up into 7th place. Gained quite a few positions, did very well on the set of the soft tyres. The safety car helped him for his second stop at least. His teammate, I believe, going into the pits, but he decided to stay out, so he is having a normal race so far. Scott Taylor did have a very good race to start with, but he got caught up with the shenanigans on the safety car restart, unfortunately, which just did not help him a little bit. As far as our new drivers are concerned, we got a Concept down in the P12. Hasn't had the best of races, but with this second safety car, he'll be able to hopefully move his way up through the field. And don't forget, he's in an Aston Martin, and an Aston Martin around here, not the best car to be in, I would say. His teammate Adam Sanderson down in 14th place. He's not having the best of races either, but again, he loves those safety cars, so we'll see if he can climb his way up through there as well. And Sasso and Matt 212, they were having a little bit of a battle earlier on, weren't they? Matt 212 picked up a penalty earlier on in the race in the castle section. The castle section, I have to say, tonight brought a lot of chaos for some of our drivers, and the runoff in towards turn 4 did bring up lots of chaos too. So they got to keep an eye on those as we head towards the end of the race, where some people's tyres start to degrade, especially those medium tyre runners of the front two of Alex Gillen and Meraki. That's what we've got to keep an eye on, of course, as well. So that was a quick rundown of what's gone on for the rest of the field. Let's hand over to Tom Squared.
Wow, thank you, Jess. We'll wait and see if the safety car peels in at the end of this lap. Formula Car comes across the team radio saying his left front is now the coldest tyre on the planet. And I'm sure a few of them will be hoping to get a little bit more tyre temperature in before they go racing again to start lap, what could be lap 37, of course. That intentional safety car barrier now capped off at lap 41. So if anyone's going to cause another safety car, it will be capped out in the next 5 laps or so. Then it will be a straight sprint until the end. It does not look like Bert Myland is going to come in. So we are going to throw it over to Clipbook Carl, who has the inside scoop for us once again.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, boy, have we got some action to feast ourselves upon. So, first of all, Meraki. You're wondering how on earth he dropped back so far. Of course, Razin making the move didn't quite help things, but he actually did it of his own accord. Into turn number 2, slams on the anchors, brakes too late again. We've seen a lot of people struggle with braking points today, whether they're testing line off for the first time or whether they are seasoned veterans in that department. Regardless of whether they have Rainbow Snake or not, almost a massive Code Brown moment for Jake. It was definitely a Code Brown moment. Regardless, though, well, there was no consolation for this one. Scott Taylor at the castle section. He also completely blunders up his braking point. Bails out, actually, of hitting the wall in the castle section. He was screaming no as he headed to the wall. It's the biggest slow motion accident you've ever seen in your life. And that's how he got front wing damage on lap number 31. We then head over to this one, though. And this is where it all sort of started to overflow and boil over a little bit. So Ricky absolutely scythes it down the inside. Kai does very well, actually, to avoid making too much contact, if any contact, with the Mercedes man. This next bit, though, not so good, as Ben is alongside him, just chops across. I don't know whether he thought he had more room than he thought he did, or whether he thought Ben would back out, but regardless, swipes into his teammate. Ben's already got the damage at this point. Ricky then blazes it wide. One switchback for Ben. He thought, so nice, I'll do it twice. Revenge on the teammate, a dish best served cold, as Kai turns in on Ben. Clearly no love lost between those two, despite being in the same team today. Ben does prevail, but the damage is just too much of a burden to bear in that case. We then head over to Kareem and his conundrums that he's had. So, Adam Sanderson, Super Noodle Bagel, having a little bit of a dice and a duel as they head up towards turn number 1, hugging the inside line. Kareem switches to the inside line, and I'm going to have to get a bit of a jiggy on. Brakes too late, was ruining his braking point, but then gets caught up in the lag bubble, spewed out into the wall, and his wheel does a little bit of Strictly for us. It's a 7 out of 10. And then, of course, what brought out the safety car in the first place, which is what we are coming to the end of Another driver comes a cropper at TK corner, which I'm now going to call it. Virtual safety car comes out, and he bins it into the wall. With that being said, over to our navigation. It's Tom and Tom.
Well, thank you, Carl. We're ready for another safety car restart to go racing on lap 38 of 51. 14 laps remaining here in Azerbaijan, the Baku City circuit, and it will be Meraki trying to get a better restart, but Gillen's already caught him napping. Look how early that kick Sauber has launched down towards the line. Meraki caught sleeping. Razin Chai right on the rear of the Williams car as they make it in towards turn number 1. He's already alongside as he progresses in towards the braking zone. Razin does not think about a move in towards the corner. He could have. I think he was well and truly there to make an effort to try and send it up the inside, but he knows the greater good is what could come. He's got 14 laps to get past Meraki if he wants to try and make a challenge for second place here this afternoon. Lots of people battling out further back. Timo Mark and Super Noodle Bagel having a scrap for 15th and 16th respectively. Formula Kai gets the better of Riccio 3 for 7th place. Matt 212 still trying to hold off Scotty Designs, by the way, and that's a very quick moving Safto who wants to try and dispatch Riccio 3, get in his mirrors and remind him that an Alpine is still there.
I think we're going to see some punchy moves on this safety car restart. Alex Gillen still looking strong out in front. 1.0 seconds the gap between himself and Meraki. Pinned it on that safety car restart. Has already got him out of the 1 second window. Watch for Ben as well, up to P14 now. Tim Malik is in his best when he's got the bit between his teeth. He has been in the wars a lot so far this race. Opportunity to try and claw back as many places as possible. He's going to be very, very racy.
Right, Razin coming across the team radio saying, fair play, Jake didn't think he'd get it stopped, assuming that's back from turn 1, and explains why Razin just backs out of the corner. He wasn't expecting the Williams to get the car stopped. He does so. He gives him fair racing room, and that is a sportsmanship approach to make his way through the race as a total. He's got to make sure he reaches the end of 53 laps. Being told Jake is still persevering with lower gears in the corners compared to Gillen, which is increasing the tyre wear that he's got. Meraki and Gillen, both of them on 11 lap old medium tyres, but I could almost guarantee that there's a difference in tyre wear in a grander for Razin Chai though. Of course, on 12 lap old harder tyres will have the advantage in a few laps to take it until the end. Those harder tyres will come to the cropper of Chai.
Need to remember though that probably 75% of those laps have been done under the safety car, so it's just going to level out ever so slightly between the mediums and the hards. We're going to see the likes of Razin and Lolinoba not quite as strong in comparison to Alex and Jake when we get to the end of the Grand Prix as they would have been if we didn't have that second safety car period. So just going to level out ever so slightly, you would expect. Alex Gillen though looks so strong. This is one of his best tracks in the Creator Series. Never finished lower than 4th. He is a former winner here, of course. He could be doubling up, picking up his second win here in Azerbaijan. Got 1.6 seconds over Meraki, and you feel like Razin's the driver that is going to challenge Gillen for the race win. The only problem is there's a Williams currently sat right in front of him.
Meraki comes across the team radio. We were going below 50. I'm assuming referring to the restart from Alex Gillen, claiming that he might have been going too slow as he made his way through turn 19 and up towards the final corner of this Baku circuit. Wasn't anticipating that Sauber was wanting to lure them into a false sense of security before punching that throttle and running down towards the first corner. And yeah, Carl, very much so. Jake not happy with the safety car restart as he's still 1.5 seconds to the disadvantage of that Sauber, which we know is an absolute killer in a straight line. It is one of the fastest cars in the straight line speed. It is, of course, the weight and the tyre wear that let it down on many factors. But Razin Chai now has a good opportunity to maybe try and make a move past the Williams and then go on to challenge that kick Sauber in the latter stages of this race. We're on lap 40 of 51, 12 to go here in the first round of season 11 in the Crate Series.
McLaren swapping places. Scott Taylor getting past Super Noodle Bagel. Tim Marley coming to P13, disposes of that guy Vince to push the Alpine down into 40. The other Alpine of Safso was looking very racy on that lap when the safety car came in and stayed in position number 9. Hasn't been under any pressure from either Adam Sanderson or Matt 212 behind him. It hasn't made any real impression on the group in front. Razin Chai pretty close to the back of Meraki, but still remaining about half a second off the back of the Williams. The safety car as well has massively helped Alex Gillen from a fuel perspective. Remember that around lap 20, I think he was 1.6 laps down on fuel. Obviously he's going to be fine on fuel now with the 2 safety car periods we've had. Meraki was up on fuel, so he's going to have to have burnt a little bit more if he's going to keep himself on a level playing field.
Certainly will. Don't forget, folks at home, if you're watching Twitch, TikTok, YouTube, whatever you want to be watching on, you name it, let us know in the live chat who you think is going to take victory here in Azerbaijan. I know there's probably a fair few critics that may say Gillen could have it locked up already, but who's your favourite driver? Who are you supporting to win this race here this afternoon? Because it is anything but over. The smallest of mistakes can lead to dire consequences. With walls this narrow, we are far too accustomed to the winner changing at the last time of asking. As we do see, I believe that was Scotty Designs, by the way, and Tiamat Marduk almost going too wide in towards the infamous turn 15. Fortunately, nothing major as Ben does back out. There will be Scotty Designs, by the way, that leads the Australian down towards the first corner.
We're a brave man to try it around the outside of turn number 15. I can tell you that, but Tiamat Marduk is one of the bravest. He is now half a second off the back of the Ferrari, though Scotty Designs. That Ferrari is El Rapido in a straight line. Speaking of which, Razin Chai has managed to dispose of Meraki, both Williams falling backwards. GB getting ahead of Lolanobra as well. So from second and fourth down to third and fifth. And now you feel the race is on. Razin Chai on the hard tyres compared to the mediums of Alex Gillen. We've got just over 10 laps to go. Can Razin hunt him down?
Interesting coming from the Twitch chat. We got a banner saying what concept will pull off the most unbelievable comeback of all time for a podium. He's got to try and navigate 15 positions if he wishes to do so in just over 10.5 laps of racing. It'll be interesting to see how he handles it. Jensen in the YouTube chat, Alex Gillen has won it. Meraki second, maybe if GB locks in P3, but if not, Razin will get the final podium place. Concept getting more support in the Twitch chat as well. Keep them coming, everybody. Let us know who you're supporting and who you think could get a win or even a podium here this afternoon. But as it stands, Razin Chai has got his work cut out for him. He's got to try and get back within the DRS of our race leader and current champion of Creator Series.
And the question is, will there be a crossover point between the medium and the hard tyres? With so many laps done under the safety car, that's going to make it a lot easier, A, for Alex Gillen to get to the end of this race on the set of medium tyres he's on, and B, they're going to be in much better nick by the time he gets to lap 51. So will there be a point at all where the hard tyres are the better compound? You can see Razin really attacking through turn 15. I think he just about brushed the wall, trying to get as close as he possibly can to Alex Gillen in front. Still 1.2 seconds, so not going to get the benefit of the DRS down the main straight into turn number 1, but it does take a chunk of time out of Gillen on this lap.
He certainly will do. 2/10 of a second already managed to break away. The question now will come down to battery management, maybe even tyre management. Of course, it's medium versus hards in the top two. Mediums still on Alex Gillen, hards on Razin Chai, both of them at 14 laps old. Meraki may be thinking for a comeback here in towards the first corner, but he's just going to play it safe for now. Alex marginal on fuel as well. He's done the fuel saving he requires, but still teetering across that 0 mark. He's got to be careful he doesn't push too hard towards the end stints. And of course, lap 42, as Jess rightly reminds me in our chat, marks the end of the intentional safety car period. Folks, it's only going to be mistakes or an all-out sprint to the end here.
100%. Drivers definitely are sprinting. Razin Chai 2/10 quicker than Gillen on the previous lap. He was half a second quicker on the lap before. A little bit of a wobble there from Lolanobra. He's dropped nearly 2 seconds to the quartet in front. The Chappers suddenly all over the rear of the Williams down into turn number 5. Couldn't quite find the path to get up into position number 5. Sliding again, throwing the rear end of that Williams all over the show. Chappers are still, don't think he's going to look for the move down the inside into turn number 7. But Lolly definitely struggling here with either tyre wear, tyre temperature, or maybe just general grip and confidence.
Lolanobra on 19-lap old hard tyres compared to the 15-lap mediums that Chappers still has on, showing he's still got some life left in the medium tyre. The question will be for how long? Surely not another 10 laps on a set of the medium tyres. Of course, you have accustomed to that they did do a lot of laps under the safety car, which will extend their tyre life. So at least half of that was probably done under the safety car conditions. They won't exactly have put much pressure, much wear into the tyres, not enough lateral load to really cause them to degrade at such a rate that we've seen over the course of the race so far. But it still will be a time of tyre management for all of our drivers, as Chappers now right on the gearbox of Lolanobra without even DRS. He thought about a move to the outside. He'll wait for that rear wing to spring open, but it is going to be Chappers that surely will take away P5 here. Is this going to be Formula Kai coming through on 1 but 2? He's going to take P5 away. He goes in towards the first corner, sends it in deep. Chappers tries it around the outside. He holds on for the time being. It's another mini sprint towards the second corner. Chappers holds on to P5.
Definitely a little bit of contact there, but all's well that ends well for the pair of them. The problem is Formula Kai going to have to defend and try and attack as well, because Lonanoba will be desperate to try and get these places back. All of them jinking all over the place down the straight. It's actually the Alpine of Safso on the move and in the groove, sends it up the inside of Ricky 03. They renew their spoils. What can Matt 212 do as well? I think Safso is going to muscle his way past, round the outside, taps the barrier. Ricky out of shape is going to allow the Ferrari of Matt 212 to say thank you very much, is he? He's definitely dangling in the nose of the Scarlet car down the inside. I think Ricky's now going to hold it around the outside, loses just one place to Safso, but there is our former two-time champion, Team McMulloch. Much fresher medium tyres, blast past his former teammate.
Got a whole battle, four-way fight going on at the moment. Ricky all the way down to Adam Sanderson, all well and truly engulfed in one another. Almost a mini mistake there by Ricky 03. He's made his way up through the castle section. The rear end of that car looking increasingly more slidey as the laps continue to wear away at our drivers, at the cars, at the tyres that they have on them. And every component of this car is just begging and screaming to get to the end. Oh, a little lock up from the drivers in front. I think, again, that might have been Ricky 03 just not having the best of times. It'll be a question to try and hold on as they make their way through. Ben, as he sits on the rear of Matt 212 here, through 17, 18, 19 and 20, will run down towards the line. Can he try and get a run? He hasn't got enough battery to try and cause any problems for the drivers in front, and it does look like Matt 212's birdie as he pulls away to try and challenge Ricky 03. Gets the move done around the outside before DRS has even considered a play.
Out in front, Razin Chai was half a second quicker than Gillen on the previous lap and suddenly is right back in this race for the victory. Maraki just over a second off the back. Terrible run through turn 2 for Razin Chai. Yellow flag is out. Scott Taylor may be in trouble. We've got cars all over the show. Dak Gavins in a bit of bother as well. I think Scotty Designs has lost a whole host of places as well. Was battling over a couple of cars. Now finds himself 2 seconds off the back of Adam Sanderson.
This could be a really interesting fight for the lead now. We've got 7 laps to go here in Baku, and Razin looking for essentially what would be a back-to-back win. Of course, got the aid when Tom came to his rescue on lap 51 last time. He sat and waited at the exit of turn 16, gave him the tow towards the line, which won it ultimately in essentially a dead sprint towards the line. None of that again this year. As, of course, Tom took a step back from racing in the F1 Create Series, but he will still have some teammates. Lots of Lolly fans coming into the live chat. He's still in 7th, but I wonder if he's got a plan going forwards.
I just saw as well before the wall of Lonanoba and Italian flags came in. He is struggling a little bit with his tyre temperatures. He's just managed to keep Formula Kai in check in front of him, but Chapper's doing an exceptional job in that Red Bull again, holding the gap of around a second between himself and Formula Kai. Tim McMulloch continues to charge on as well. Do not be shocked if he ends up finishing this race in position number 5. That's really, really quick on those new medium tyres, but for the first time in quite a while, we could have a change of lead.
We certainly could do indeed. Razin Chai well and truly in the groove as he comes down towards turn 1. Rear wing for the first time in a while will spring open. Gillen's got to go defensive, or will he try and work with Chai here as they make their way down towards the first corner? Gillen looks to the inside. He's not going to hold it, but Raz is well and truly happy to sit in behind. He'll accept the DRS, and this could be interesting. Looks to the inside once again, does Razin Chai, but again, just sitting pretty. 2 kick Saubers in the podium positions as GB's come somewhat out of nowhere. He's dispatched Meraki, now sits on the rear of Razin Chai, and I have a feeling the 2 kick Saubers could try and work together.
Will they work together, or will they realise that they are probably going to be championship rivals in this season, and maybe there'll be no love lost between Gillen and GB. GB was very decisive going down the inside of Jake into turn 1, got that move stuck, and now he can focus on the 2 drivers that sit in front of him. Jake doesn't quite seem to have the pace to truly challenge the trio that sit in front. He'll be hoping to pick up the pieces of any minor bumps and scrapes that happen in front. There were lots of trading places as well down to turn 1. Safso picking up a spot ahead of Lonanoba. Tim McMulloch getting ahead of Matt 212. Ricky 03 doing the same. Ben's got himself back into contention with Lolly, with Safso, with Formula Kai as well. Chapper's holding on nicely in P5 also. But it is this quartet that are running away out in front. What order will they be by the time we get to turn 1? At the start of 46 though.
Don't forget, a 4-way battle can turn into a 0-way battle as quick as it forms. We have seen times where they've gone 3, even 4 wide, and that does often end up in carnage, especially here at Baku where the walls are oh so tight to our drivers. It's going to be a question of longevity now towards the line. Here we go as we run down. Razin will have the rear wing open. The question will be, will he go for the move? He's going to have to, otherwise I think GB will try and swallow him up as well. The 4-way fight is now coming into fruition as we come on towards lap 46. Gillen over the team radio. I'll try and get this win, but a podium at least is what he's aiming for. Who knows which way this is going to go. It's not over until the fat lady sings Razin Chai. Happy just sitting pretty. That was a little bit of contact between our lead two, though. Gillen earlier on the brakes, and I think Razin expected. GB looks to try and go aggressive in towards the second corner, tries to go too wide. The up and under from GB as he runs now side by side down towards turn 3. This is a masterclass from GB68, now looking for his own teammate to try and gain the position. Still side by side between him and Razin, as now Razin and Gillen go side by side, almost 3 wide for a moment. In towards turn 4 is going to be Razin Chai that wants the position. GB still on the rear of this fight. Gillen, though, still holding on by the barest of margins. It's still 2 abreast further back. GB and Razin not giving up this fight. How often do we see a fight go on that long, 2 by 2 in Baku?
Soft, laser-like precision from all 3 of them. Alex Gillen was stout in his defence, holding up GB and Razin behind, and GB eventually muscling his way just about past Razin. It was that mistake into turn 1. Razin just tapped the back of Alex Gillen. That put GB right on his tail, and then he was just stuck between a rock and a hard place. He couldn't really go for the move into turn 2 on Alex Gillen because he would have been flown back past by probably both of the Sours, and he couldn't really just tuck him behind because GB was all over the back of him. Now for the first time, GB, since what, lap 3 or 4 in this race, could be taking the lead back.
He certainly could do indeed. All 3 of these drivers race winners here in Baku. They know the history, they know the ability, what they have to do to try and secure victory at such a historic track as Azerbaijan. Gillen will try and go defensive. His teammate for the afternoon, GB, knows where he's got to go. Razin Chai may even try and leapfrog both of these drivers in towards the first corner. Only time will tell, though, as we progress down in towards the first of the overtaking spots. GB goes to the outside, Gillen holds the inside, tries to keep it open, but he's actually going to go very defensive into turn 1, force GB round the outside. GB accompanies, tries to play ball with his fellow teammate, looks to the outside once again in towards turn 2. GB can get the overspeed, he takes the lead of the race.
Uncharacteristically passive there from Alex Gillen. Now he's got to try and hold on to position number 2 because here comes Razin Chai once more. Gillen, is he sensing an opportunity down the inside? Going to have to try and hold on to second. Swooping past goes Razin Chai, and Gillen, from looking so comfortable, bulletproof one might say, now finds himself folding down into position number 3. He said he was happy with the podium. Maybe he's settling for it just a little bit too easily.
Harder tyres on GB and Razin, medium tyres on Gillen and Meraki. It's going to be a question of how well have they looked after their rubber over the course of this race. We head on to lap 48, which signals 4 laps to go. These battles are well and truly not over yet. I think we are going to go right up until the line. Are we going to see a 4-way fight or even a dash to the line? Because they are some of the most exciting finishes that you ever see in Formula 1. At the moment, it's GB68 in control of this race. Razin Chai has to settle for second, but they are starting to bridge a gap to Alex Gillen. Are the medium tyres starting to fall off a cliff here?
Well, look, his tyres are absolutely cooked, nearly 9/10 per second off the back of the leading duo. Look behind them as well. Formula Kai just 1.3 seconds off the back of them, bringing Chappers, bringing Safso, bringing Tiamat Marduk with them as well. Could be an 8-way scrap come the end of this race. This is bubbling up, everybody, and Razin Chai will still be fancying his opportunity to get the lead of this race back as we go down into turn number 1.
Gillen still has DRS, as does Meraki. This will hamper Formula Kai, who would have been hoping for the rear wing to fly open to try and drag him back towards this lead fight. Razin Chai now takes the lead, or does he? Look to the inside of the first corner. GB going defensive again. This is fantastic racecraft from all of our drivers in this situation. None of them want to go overly aggressive. They know they've got more opportunities left to either defend or attack here. Gillen just happy to sit back for the time being. Charge some battery, sit in the DRS, sort of drag him back towards this fight. GB and Razin, though, looks to the inside as Chai. He switches to the outside as he tries to go into the left-hander of turn number 3. Looked to try and have the inside for turn number 4, but unfortunately didn't quite get the speed that he needed out of that corner. This is excellent battling that we're seeing here up at the front.
Well, Razin there has laid his cards on the table, happy to sit in behind going into turn 1. But when we get to the braking zone of turn 3, desperate to try and get through and lead through the middle sector and potentially try his best to drop that group behind. GB's been unsuccessful in doing that at the moment, all of them recharging the battery through this middle sector, trying to give themselves the best opportunity to either gain a place or indeed hold on to it in GB's case, going down into turn number 1.
Absolutely, we've got to keep an eye on tyres, batteries, all sorts. Don't forget fuel as well. Could be a considerable factor in this race. 2 Kick Saubers, a V-Carb and a Williams walk into a bar, and what do you get? Well, a fantastic race ending here in Baku is what we're getting at the moment. Kai is trying to bring himself into the fight, as is Chappers as well, who's not far off the back. Safso and Tiamat Marduk are not far off the back of this fight. We could turn a 4-way fight into an 8-way fight as we continue on with 3 and a bit laps left to go. GB68 still the race leader from Razin Chai, from Alex Gillen. Meraki just sitting pretty in 4th place, but now Kai's in DRS range. This is going to get interesting towards the end. Are we going to see a move from Razin this time around? Is Gillen trying to force a move from Razin up front, maybe try and cause some carnage? No, the status quo remains through turn 1.
Oh, is Ben going to shoot it up the inside of his former teammate? Safso had a look around the outside. He was very, very close, a tenth of a second. Separated the Alpine and the Haas into turn 1. I said Ben could potentially still finish 5th in this race. He needs to get his skates on a little bit with just under 3 laps to go. Look at the gap out in front though, 2/10 of a second. Razin, we saw that he wanted to go for it into turn 3 a couple of laps ago. This time not quite close enough, but almost pushing the Sauber through the apex of the corner. Ben ducking and weaving still underneath the rear wing of Safso, his former McLaren teammate, but they retain the formation at the back of this 8-car DRS train.
It's a fantastic race we're seeing. They're dancing like dragonflies up at the front of this pack. Tiamat Marduk says he's burning everything. He wants to try and get up towards the front of this train. He wants to try and battle for the race win. He was denied one in Season 10. Couldn't quite continue his streak of getting a win in every Creator Series season that he's entered. He'll be looking for a vengeance in Season 11, trying to end the losing streak that he essentially is on at the moment. Regain some of the pace that he used to have in seasons gone by, but at the moment the battle is well and truly between GB Razin and Alex Gillen. Meraki doesn't seem a threat at the moment, and I wonder how long he's going to try and play that card for. Is he just happy to wait until we get onto the final lap, or maybe the penultimate lap as well?
Can't just play the spectator role, otherwise the final 2 laps of this race will pass you by. Same goes for Alex Gillen, who's definitely grappling for grip on those medium tyres. 22-lap-old hard tyres for the leading duo, 22-lap-old mediums for the duo behind. I know what tyres I would rather be on at this stage of the race, especially considering this is a significantly rear-limited circuit. Chappers in P6 just trying to cling onto the coattails of Formula Car in front. Does the Red Bull have the DRS lap open? No, he does not. He's going to get pushed further away from the leading quintet. Tiamat Marduk not as close to the back as Safso down to turn 1. But Razin once again looking very menacingly behind GB.
We're going to start to see a lot of confidence gain from some drivers. You're going to have to take advice from Doc Hudson, drive it in deep and hope it sticks, especially when we get to some of the higher speed corners through the 3rd sector, most notably 18, 19 and 20. Hope the tyres have enough life left in them to take them at the high speed you are required to. It's going to be Razin Chai looking for another up and under on GB here. He's got a little bit of extra straight line speed as they make their way down towards turn 5 and turn 6. I wonder if he's trying to set up a move this far back. Is he going to look maybe 3 or 4 corners ahead to try and confuse GB? Maybe getting his mirrors a little bit too much. Force the error from our leading driver.
And this is a tactical game now. Do you want to take the lead into turn 1? Do you want to take it into turn 3, which is what Razin has had a couple of stabs at going for, and run away through that middle sector? Or do you try and blast past on the run to the line, Valtteri Bottas, Lance Stroll style from 2017? So many different options. Which card is Razin going to play? 6/10 of a second back at the moment, recharging that battery unsurprisingly.
It's going to be a question I'm sure we will have answered in the next few moments. It's still all up in the air, left, right and centre. We head on to what will be our final lap of racing. GB still in control with Razin Chai in 2nd, Alex Gillen still in 3rd, Meraki playing spectator still. He hasn't decided to go for a move quite yet. Kai's come to join the party, as has Chappers, F1, Safso and Tiamat Marduk. The top 8 all locked in horns as we head on to one final outing here at the Baku City Circuit. Formula Kai makes the move on Meraki, who looks rather innocently over the course of these last few laps. Kai's not playing the victim anymore. He tries to go to the inside. 4th place for Formula Kai now, with just 19 corners remaining, as Razin Chai comes over the team radio. Too fast on the straights, man. He's really going to struggle against GB. Lower wings, and we've said this before, the Sauber is so quick in a straight line. Razin is going to have to try and make up the moves in the corners, where that car is notably better than the highlighter that he's got in front of him, but the corners dwindle down. He doesn't seem to be able to make advantage of the extra downforce that he has so far. It's going to be GB that has all the advantage, but the question will be, as we get on towards that final run down towards the line, which way will it go? Does GB have enough battery to see this out?
Interesting question. Razin incredibly close, as we expected through this middle sector. They really punch it through the castle section for the final time. There is contact as Razin pushing him, saying, come on, get on with it. He's trying to save as much battery as possible, the pair of them, but Razin will have the advantage of the DRS. Watch for Alex Gillen as well, the shrewdest of operators. If he's close enough on the run up to the line, you can bet your bottom dollar he's going to have a go. Formula Kai a little bit too far back. Razin clouds the curb at 15, and he's less than 0.2 of a second off the back of him.
No mistakes here as they head through turn 16, flat out towards the line. Make your bets now, place them, no more are accepted here on the run down towards the line. GB's got to hope that the battery and the straight line speed does his favour. Razin will hope for the slipstream. GB over the team radio. Car is so rear heavy. Which way is this going to go? Two previous winners at this race circuit. They'll come up towards the line. It'll be a photo finish. GB68 will win it again.
11 milliseconds, that was the margin. You saw there was a bit of argy-bargy over the line, a tete-a-tete between the pair of them. GB trying his best to shepherd Razin over to the right-hand side. Do not come past me, please don't come past me, he begged. And he was just fortunate enough. Razin Chai does not go back-to-back in Baku. It's GB at the scene of his first Creator Series victory, winning it by 11 thousandths of a second. Top three covered by less than half a second. Formula Kai and Meraki rounding out the top five, but GB, he's still chasing that first Creator Series crown and kicks it off in the best possible fashion.
He certainly does. There's no better way to win a championship than to win the first race that you've been accustomed to. I was about to say he's been knocked down a car, but at the moment, quite not possible. Him will stay in the Sauber. Razin Chai across the team radio. That's a bit dodgy, man. Just keep the car straight. Well, that'll be one allegedly for the steward's room, but it was so nice he had to do it twice. GB is once again your race winner here in Azerbaijan.
We talk about realistic performance. Sauber, RB Sauber, your top three. We had a couple of Haas cars in the top 7 as well. But the racing that we got throughout that, whether it was the strategy game, the battles on track, that's one of the best Creator Series races we've had for some time.
Oh, absolutely. And if this is a marker for how the season's going to go for the rest of season 11, I am really, really excited to see how this is going to play off. But I think it's worth pointing out, our predictions at the start of the show were relatively accurate. The faster cars will do better in qualifying. The more experienced the drivers will do better in the race when it becomes that mental battle.
And this sets us up beautifully, doesn't it? The awards, we love to see them. Race winner GB fastest lap goes to Concept, who got it on the last lap. Formula Kai with driver of the day and most overtakes from 19th on the grid, battling through to finish in P4. And I didn't see who got cleanest driver. I think it was one of the Red Bulls, Chappers. He did a very, very commendable job to come home in P8. 5 ex-Creator Series champions finish in the top 7. The other 2 race winners and definitely championship protagonists as well. Riccio 3 and Lolanoba rounding out your top 10. Only a couple of retirees, 3 to be precise. Kareem 7T, Tukey and James Early.
Yeah, what a race we've seen and what a result for GB68 right at the end there. We're going to throw it back to Jess and Carl.
I'm still amazed with that finish there. It was absolutely insane. 11 thousandths of a second separating GB68 and Razin Chai on the line. You were seeing it from a lot of angles, Carl. It must have been amazing those last few laps.
Oh, God, don't even start. Honestly, what a scintillating spectacle. Realistic cars, huh? And Baku. How about that? Well, we've got all of the action waiting to have a look at. First of all, Jake wasn't very happy with the safety car restart, and we're gonna find out why. So Alex Gillen just sitting at about 60 kph, and then goes even slower, down to 48 is the way the kick Sauber goes, and then pulls the trigger. Now, I leave that up to you. Let's put it that way. I'm not going to be the court of public opinion. That's for you all to decide. Moving on now. It's a diplomacy, ladies and gentlemen. On to Ben and Adam Sanderson. Now, I highlighted this one in particular because it just highlighted how tentative you have to be in the mid-pack when it's such close quarters combat all the way through. So Adam, with a solid little send on Mat 212, tiny bit of contact up ahead. You see Ricky and Safso going to town as well. We make our way to the left-hander. Ben kind of ruining Mat 212 here because he takes it very, very gingerly. Tells him to be brave. In the end, just about skates around the outside of Adam Sanderson, who didn't fight it extremely hard in the end. But again, a tiny bit of contact. They're all taking it so carefully all the way through. But on to what was my highlight of the race, and it was this battle here. Razin, GB, Alex Gidden, lap 46. Now we begin at the very tippity top of this particular eventuality. That's Razin making contact with Gillen. Both of their momentum compromised. GB spots an opportunity here, shows it to the inside. Razin defends, so he goes, hello. The old switch over to the left, to the right rather. Then back to the left again. Left, right, good night potential from the lean green machine. And it was soon to be a lean green 1-2. Gillen, though, defends the inside to stop GB going through. And then enter on stage right. It's Razin Chai. So, through he goes, round the outside, goes the V-Carb driver so close with the walls, just about enough racing room and respect. Great battling all the way through, momentum compromised on the inside though, and guess what? Enter stage left GB68 to go down the inside, and Razin has to take to the curbs a little bit. That seals that particular battle, GB putting the sword to the almighty warrior that is Razin. But the final question, did GB move in a straight line? Razin obviously wasn't very happy, but we shall soon see. No battery left whatsoever. Can't question the commitment whatsoever. Now, we're just going to slow this down a little bit. Razin pulls out to the right-hand side, as we can all see. GB doesn't really move at the moment. It's Razin who makes that initial contact with the rear right. He carries his trajectory straight on. GB, yes, he does move a little bit. You can see him squeezing over to that right-hand side. But my thing with this is, look at all of the real estate Razin has to offer and has to hand. So if he really wanted to not have that contact, not have his momentum compromised, there's all of that space on the right-hand side. There's a bit of argy-bargy towards the line, 11 thousandths. If that is just a taste and flavour of what Season 11 has to offer, well, we're in for a rapturous rollercoaster ride this season.
Yes, indeed, Carl. And we got this for the rest of the season. It's not just realistic performance for round one. We got it for the entirety of the season. They'll be in different cars next week as well. So that's going to be very cool. So thank you very much, Clipgood Carl, for all your analysis throughout this race. But we have got some interviews to take on, including our race winner, the driver who first won here in the Creative Series around Baku. And guess what? He's done it here again, here in Season 11. Welcome in, GB. Congratulations. 11,000 across the line. That was probably nail biting towards the end there.
It was, yeah. I didn't think I had enough to hold Razin off. I had no idea what his battery was, but yeah, there's some talk about blocking intentionally or something like that. I certainly wasn't trying to like halt Razin's momentum. We'll watch it back, but it was. I thought he had me down the straight. Yeah, I think he had marginally better battery, but it was crazy. Like, there were a couple rear ends in sector 2 and 3 as well in that final lap, and obviously super tight fighting with Alex and Meraki on the mediums. So yeah, it was tense, but we all got through without damage and largely unharmed, thankfully. Yeah, great win. I was really happy with that one. I mean, Baku's obviously a good track for me. Clearly, it's where I got the first win here. So yeah, happy with that.
Yeah, and in a kick Sauber as well. I'd just like to ask, how was your first race in one of the slowest cars?
Yeah, I think calling it a boat is being generous, to be honest. Yes. It's yeah, it was tricky. I think Sauber straight line speed is not bad at all, which is
it's
obviously
okay.
Good. Yeah, so I'm not sure if it's necessarily the fastest on the straight, but it's not too bad. So I made a little setup for myself that would kind of hopefully try and negate some of the cornering. But I mean, Alex as well, obviously my teammate in the kick Sauber, I don't know how he got on with his rear tires, but the biggest issue I think with the Sauber is the tire wear, at least from my experience. So at the start on the soft tires, I just died literally. And once I got to, I don't know, 7-8 laps in, the rears were completely gone. You saw a couple of mistakes and me drop down the order, and yeah, I think I was surprised today with how bad the tires were versus obviously, let's say like a McLaren or a Red Bull. So, but yeah, we'll take it. In the end, it was did everything I could to try and cover that deficit, and it helped that Alex was with me at the front as well, because obviously he has the exact same experience with tires, except he was on the mediums, which are even worse. So, yeah, so that obviously helps.
I think the undercut must have helped at the beginning as well, because even though you were struggling at the beginning, you were able to gain quite a few positions based on you pitting like a few laps early compared to your rivals, Razin and maybe Formula Kai ahead of you.
Yeah, that's right. To be honest, I didn't really put too much thought into undercutting at the time. It was just, I can't drive on these tires. I'm dropping down positions like crazy. like its damage limitation. I knew that it was only tires and it wasn't like me struggling with the car. So I just put on the hards and went for it. And obviously, by the time I think Razin boxed a lot later, he was kind of a similar position, just marginally ahead. And at that point, when Razin was there as well, because I knew he was in the lead train, I kind of knew that we were going to be okay for track position. And yeah, I think would have been really interesting without the safety car, just to see what would have happened for strategy, because obviously Alex ran it so long. But yeah, anyway, it's pretty pleased with the race overall. I think there were a lot of good battles. So the likes of Lolly at the end, Alex as well, Razin as well, side by side. Hopefully you guys enjoyed all the action, because
yes,
yeah, the end definitely delivered from my side at least.
I think my jaws will drop because you never know which way it was going to go. With a lot of you showing some good respect on the track, it was incredible. It definitely delivered. Next week, of course, we won't know what the track is. You're more than likely going to be in the kick again. What track are you hoping for next week to race in?
I'm not going to spoil anything. All I'm saying is I'm not racing next week, but I might be.
Oh.
So I'm leaving it as a riddle. So definitely not racing in my usual format. That's all you need to know. So we'll see. Next week should be good for everyone, for the viewers, hopefully. Yeah, I know I'm definitely missing round 3. So look, if I could, I'll take the race wins when they come, basically. So yeah, I'll happily take today.
So pretty much you needed to win today to get your season off to a great start. GB68, our race winner. Enjoy the rest of your evening, my friend.
Cheers, Jess. Cheers, guys.
And from one kick Sauber to another, we are going to get Alex Gillen here in the commentary box. So one of the only drivers to do the one stop. Those mediums must have been really hard at the end.
Yeah, they weren't great. Honestly, really happy with my race. I don't think I could have done anything different. I seem to have good pace. The strategy was good, no mistakes. Just the RNG of racing in Creator Series sometimes, when the safety cars come out, it sometimes works for you, it sometimes doesn't. I ended up sort of a bit caught on the mediums at the end there. Still got a podium, so it was a decent strategy, but yeah, one hand tied behind my back a little bit against those hard runners, unfortunately, at the end.
Yeah, because you started in 10th on the grid and you started on the hards in general. What made you start in a different strategy compared to the likes of some of the drivers who are on the mediums, for example, the softs?
Yeah, well, I mean, I knew the softs die so quick, and I thought, well, I've got 2 sets of hards because I chose the harder compound. So if I use that, I've then got a set of softs, a set of mediums, and a set of hards for the rest of the race. And if there was going to be a very early safety car, let's say lap 5, I'd have stayed out because I probably would have only had like 6% tyre wear or something, so I would have been completely fine. So that was the logic. Also thinking there might be less safety cars maybe with realistic cars, keeping the grid a bit closer. That did seem to turn out to be the case. So yeah, in the end, that seemed like a good strategy, but unfortunately, obviously, the one stop there ended up, as I said, a bit sort of caught on the mediums as the others who had already ran both compounds could go to the no-brainer strategy of hards till the end there. So it just is what it is.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the one-stop strategy, actually, because it's usually quite hard on F1 25. And we were speaking to GB earlier how the tyre wear was very difficult in the kit. Could you say the same thing if you were in a different car? Would it have been easier?
I don't know. It wasn't too hard. I mean, the tyres weren't fresh at the end by any means, but they were fine. They weren't about to go pop, so it was fine. Yeah, I just was looking after the rears, really. It's in quite a comfortable position. I was in quite a comfortable position for most of the race, sort of a few seconds in the lead, so just trying to manage fuel, manage tyres, and that definitely helped. If I was fighting, it could have been a very different story. But yeah, honestly, it wasn't even that hard. I probably could have done another 10 laps on those hards at the start. So it was weirdly, it wasn't hard. It just wasn't the tyre I needed at the end, unfortunately.
And what do you think of the kick Sauber in general? Is this a car you like in general?
Yes, actually, weirdly. I tested all the realistic cars this week. Obviously, the Sauber's missing a little bit of absolute downforce, but actually it turns really, really well. Whereas something like maybe the Aston Martin or the Alpine really don't turn very well. So, yeah, it's honestly fine. If I'm in the Sauber for the rest of the season, I'm a pretty happy boy, to be honest. It's genuinely... It drives all right. I would like a bit more downforce, sure, and I'd like a bit better tyre wear, sure, but other than that, it's honestly fine. And what I will say as well, on realistic performance, it closed the grid up quite a bit. We definitely had a much closer quali. I mean, I was only, just under 3/10 off pole, and I was P10. That would not be the case, I think, normally. So, close up quali, the race seemed to be closer, but also the good news is you didn't see a completely mixed up order. I think viewers wouldn't like to see perhaps people, winning races that, have come from absolutely nowhere, and you go, oh, they're only winning because they're in X car. It just closed up the field without completely upending the series. So I think that's been a fantastic change, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the season.
I agree. Lots of successful racing and a very close qualifying as well. But next week, unknown track. What do you want it to be next week when we go racing again?
I don't know, honestly. I think I'd like a bit more tyre wear even. Like, the one stop not possible, really, really mix it up. Baku's not exactly easy on tyres, but give me like, what's really high on tyres? Austria's quite high on tyre wear these days. Maybe something like Austria. Even in a 50% race, you have to two-stop. One stop is virtually impossible without really cruising. So yeah, something that sort of guarantees a two-stop, I think I'd go for next week.
Okay, I like that. So hopefully we may see it next week. We'll let you go and enjoy the rest of your evening. Congratulations on the podium, Alex Gillen.
Cheers, Jess. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Right then, we've heard from the two Kick Saubers. Let's go to our final podium sitter who finished second place, just missed out on the win. It is the man who drove one-handed in qualifying. It is Razin Cho. Razin, so close yet so far. How was it at the end? You were so close to getting the win.
Yeah, it was a bit unfortunate to miss out on a win there at the end. I think it was really close. We did some reviewing afterwards. But yeah, I mean, GG to GB regardless. I was really happy with my race. We, did amazing from the start. Got a lot of positions off lap 1. Had some great side-by-side battling, great different strategy, and even to the end we caught up to Alex before overtaking him, and obviously GB came through. It's just unfortunate, yeah, the DRS straight end, which we lost the win on. But yeah.
Yeah, it looked like a lot of fun racing. It was a lot close together in realistic cars between yourself and the two Kick Saubers and Formula Kai as well. Were you a bit worried that even the guys behind you were going to close up to your little threesome battle?
Yeah, Kai was a main worry because Kai was closing in quite a bit. But at the same time, when you have so many cars behind, you've got a buffer. So I knew I just need to stay P2, stay at Alex. It's not like I wasn't trying to overtake GB previous laps before the final. I was trying to make some moves. But I couldn't really get it done. He just had a bit more straight line for me, so it wasn't really helpful on that side. And then yeah, if I just had, I think, another few more percent of battery in a back straight, I probably could have gone him on a final bit for the win. But yeah, I mean, he's obviously the leading car in the straight, so he's allowed to move over, to control the line a bit to him alongside. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but GG's to him.
And of course, you stayed out a bit later at the start on those 12 lap old softs. How were they just before you pitted? Because it must have been an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, they were horrible for the last few laps. I tried my best to hold on to DRS as much as I could. My plan was always to box lap 12, so it landed up perfectly. But yeah, then we went to hards. We had some good battling with others around the field. We got through, and then, we were pretty much on the back of Jake and Alex just about before the safety car came out. But it would have been interesting to see what a two-stop would have been against the one-stop guys. Because yeah, we wanted something different, I think. And also we went side by side with Alex and Carson on that one, so can't really complain.
Yeah, that was amazing to watch them. What did you think of realistic cars in general? Because of course you will be in different cars each week. How was the V Carb this week?
I don't think it was bad. I don't think it was great. I do think the other cars may have been a bit stronger. Like, the V-Carb has his benefits, maybe like on tyre wear and stuff, but the other cars around Baku, for example, you want straight line speed, right? So if you can get a car that's slower, it says it's slower, but it's got better straight line speed, you're going to want that. The V-Car's weight distribution is not the best either, so it's a bit of a boat, but I mean, we dealt with it fine. The straight line wasn't too bad in the V-Carb, which is more managing it through the corners. But yeah, it was alright. It'll be interesting to see, obviously, what track is next week and how the car suits there, because obviously we have a rough order and we're trying to optimize, but when you go about each track, it's something you just got to deal with, if your car's not best suited for it. But yeah, it'll be interesting.
I agree with the V-Carb not best at certain parts of tracks. That's the only car I actually ever had to try realistic car, so I could definitely agree there. And speaking of tracks for next week, what are you hoping to be the mystery track?
Ooh, I don't even know, to be honest. I'm quite happy with a track, something we haven't done in a while maybe, or even Monaco. Why not? Monaco, full straight in, realistic cars, see what we can do. We haven't done in a while. But I'm open
You're
to
getting
anything.
TK's approval there in the commentary box. I think a lot of viewers would want Monaco, so maybe in the future we'll see. We'll let you enjoy the rest of your evening and do some analysis in terms of the race so far. So congratulations, second place in your first race of season 11, Razenchai.
Thanks, guys.
Okay then, so we've interviewed all of our top 3 and it was really good to watch, and we went through all the clips. We've got all of our fabulous 4, let's just say, here to debrief on what just happened, and starting with you, of course, Tom, our lead commentator, Tom Knight. What did you think of that race after you had a little bit of a debriefer?
I think that was possibly one of the best races I think I've personally been in the commentary box for. It was one that you didn't know who was going to win. There was great battles in the midfield. Scraps were happening literally everywhere, but it was fair racing for 90% of the time. We'll exclude a couple of the incidents, of course, but it had a bit of everything, and that's exactly what we wanted to see from this season.
Yes, I have to agree. One of our best races in Creator Series so far. And of course, there were some more experienced drivers near the top in the race and in qualifying, Tom Wilkinson. If it just got so close, it had everything. The experienced drivers pretty much rose to the top, it seemed.
100%, but I think we got exactly what we were asking for. We wanted it to be closer. We wanted to see some different names coming to the top as well. We got that in qualifying with Chappers. We got that with Scott Taylor towards the front as well. We saw a lot about what some of those drivers are made of when you put them in tricky situations. Chappers was outstanding. I think he deserved probably a bit more than the 8th place that he ended up finishing because he was so consistent out there. His pace was really strong. Yes, he was in a Red Bull, but you have to deliver, and he delivered really strongly. So from an experiment to what has become now the full term, at least for this season, format of the Creator Series, I think we've made a very, very good decision because, like TK said, that is one of the best races we've had in Creator Series for a couple of seasons.
Whoever made the decision to go realistic cars for the entire season, I would say hats off to them because it has been amazing. And of course, for every week, Carl, we're going to get different situations like the drivers have been saying where a certain car is better suited to that track due to either the downforce levels or maybe because it has better top speed. You may like a car one week, but may not like it the next. That is just the nature of it.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. All of the drivers will be keeping a very close eye on that. They'll be looking at the form chart very, very carefully and with a big old magnifying glass, because if they are in that Kick Sauber and we get a mystery track which doesn't have those long straights to give the advantage to the Kick Sauber, or something that requires something a little bit more nimble, then suddenly you've got the likes of potentially Alex Gillen, GB, maybe even Razin, depending on how the form guide looks into next week, who probably would be ruining their chances. So they will be keeping a very, very close eye on that one. Don't have much time to prepare for it, though, next week. So all the better for us watching.
Exactly. They only find out, and now before the race as well. They don't have as much time to prepare as they did at Baku this week. So it's going to make things even more interesting. So thank you so much to everybody that's been watching the Creator Series powered by EA Sports. Of course, thank you to our title sponsor. You can also follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Twitch. You name it. If you haven't already, please follow us on there. And also follow us on our socials. And starting with you, TK, where can we find you?
I'm on social media, just everything is at They Call Me TK. Sometimes has a little bit of an underscore in front of it. Go drop me a follow, that'd be much appreciated. Tom Wilkinson, how about yourself?
It is on Twitter, or X, and Twitch is TW6. If you're a darts fan, on Instagram and TikTok, wilco.darts, also wilco.coms. Carl Paranek to my right in the comms box. Where can people find you, and what country as well?
Well, I tell you where they can't find me. The outskirts of Rotterdam. But you might find me in Fiji. You'll also find me with my name, Carl Paranek. It's pretty distinctive. You'll probably find me there. Also, shout out the website, creatorseries.gg. Get yourselves over there. Jessica Ball, throwing this one over to you. Where can we find you on an internet?
Well, the only way you can't find me is down under in Australia. But where you can find me is at JessGames95 everywhere on X, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, the lot. That's where you can find me. Pretty simple, really. But that does it with Creator Series. Thank you so much for watching. Next week, we don't know what track we're going to be racing at. So we're going to be in the unknowns as to which car's going to do well, which driver's going to do well. But what we know from this week, GB started where he means to go on. He won at a track where he won his first Creator Series race. Will he be able to win his first championship? Well, we'll find out towards the end of the season. I've been Jess Ball, they've been Tom Squared and Carl Poranic. We'll see you next week. Take care, everyone, and good night.